Akolache, who is the technical advisor to the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, say a few words and offer his thoughts with us on championing research commercialization in Ghana. We'll also have goodwill statements from Ms. Beverly Okoye, who is the Climate Change and Illegal Wildlife Trade Attaché at the British High Commission of Ghana, and from Mr. Umar Kabo Idris, who is the Programs Manager from the Research and Innovation Systems in Africa. Next, we'll have Dr. Yawediako, the CEO of Yamachi Biotechnology, and he will take the stage to tell us about the Yamachi journey and how supportive the Ghanaian innovation and research ecosystem has been. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of today's Discovery Roundtable, there will be two panel discussions. The first one will be on the topic from laboratory to the marketplace and the role of ecosystem players in advancing e-commerce. And this interactive panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Percy Anna Bukari, who is the president of the Ghana Institute of Finance. And the second panel discussion will be about the gender challenge in innovation towards creating an equitable balance for all actors in the pipeline. And this panel discussion will be moderated by Professor Esther Akolache, who is the professor and director of graduate studies at the University of Toronto. And finally, we would end our presentations with a way forward and closing remarks from Mr. Deridin Dati, Chief Executive Officer of Heritage Labs. Today's Discovery Roundtable session is brought to you by Heritage Labs in partnership with RISA, that is the Research and Innovation Ecosystems for Africa, and the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. I'd like to once again extend a special welcome to our guest speakers and panelists in school. And I hope that today's session will inspire ideas and discussions around the ways that we can provide support for research and innovation in Ghana. Thank you.
Of course, it's really a pleasure to be here with all of you and taking part in this exciting conversation. Research and innovation play an essential role in stimulating smart and sustainable economic growth and job creation within a country. Developing new knowledge and research is central to developing innovative products, processes, services, and enabling productivity and industrial competitiveness to take place within a country. Therefore, it's very timely that we are having this forum to maximize and stimulate progress within the Ghanaian ecosystem. The UK recognises the need for investment into research and innovation as a critical issue, and as a result, the UK commits to investment in science, research, technology, and data as one of the 7 key areas of our official development assistance worldwide. To date, UK development assistance with various departments in the UK have funded 120 different partnerships in Ghana alone. Partnerships relating and including health, energy, and biodiversity. We aim to encourage more of this. The RISA Fund, which is the Research Innovation Systems for Africa, has supported 3 projects in this area. The first one is Development of Science, Research and Innovation Commercialization Hub, which is what the discussion today will be mostly around, with further UK-Ghana relationships. Thank you very much.
Technology and Innovations Partnerships under the umbrella of the RISA program, which stands for Research Innovation Systems for Africa. And I also work for results for development, not reach for development. So that's just a quick correction. So under the RISA program, there are key areas which is being categorized under A, B, and C. The first one being A is Africa Technology Innovations Partnerships, which we usually call ATIP. And we have the SRIA, which is strengthening research and innovations in Africa. And then we have the combination of both, where we have the linkage between research and innovation. So, obviously, Heritos Labs is categorized under linking research and innovations together. So on the technical component of the support, we provide support. And this is a program which is actually been managed by a consortium of partners funded by the FCDO UK. One of the fund leads is Chemonics Inc. We have Results for Development, which I represent, which is focusing on the ATIP side, Africa Technology Innovations Partnership. And then we have the SOAS University in London, who are responsible for the SRIA component, which is purely research. And then we have IMC, also in the UK. They are responsible for the monitoring, evaluation, and learning component of the program. And then we have an individual consultant who looks at the gender and social inclusion component. So we have also Brink, who are on the synergies. So they all put us together to ensure that these whole components work. And over the last 3 months, which we call the Inception Project, Ghana, like Beverly, my colleague said, we have 3 projects. We have Heritos Labs, who are doing the research, the commercialization component. We have Impact Invest in Ghana, I can see Amma there, which are doing the provision for access to funds in the ecosystem. And then we have iSpace Foundation, who are looking at trying to bring in interventions that look at the gender lens to it. So over the last 3 months, I would say congratulations to all of these projects, especially GAC Center, Heritos Labs. We have been providing non-financial support to them technically to see how they can scale all the way to March 31st. Congratulations on hosting us here. And we believe we're going to have fruitful conversations around the interesting topic, which is, trying to bring research and innovation support to everyone, especially looking at the gender aspect. So I'm wishing us a fruitful discussions, and thank you very much.
Talk a little bit about how to really set up a good research organization or a product development organization or a setup of a services organization from day one. If you don't do it right, you're not going to get lucky. Okay? You got to be intentional, you got to be deliberate about it. So I'll talk a little bit about processes and organizational setup, and then I'll delve into how we can support the ecosystem with intellectual property rights, access to market funding, access to talent and resources, and drive policy and regulatory space. These are usually the areas that up-and-coming innovators really need help. Okay? In my travels in Denmark, you will realize that most of their startup companies tend to get support from retired professionals. Okay? People that are home and they will volunteer their time as CEOs and then continue to mentor the young until they can step up to the plate. So I think if you run an innovative institution, you should always have a slide like this. That essentially shows your purpose. In my case, anytime I took over new responsibilities, I tried to map up the organization the way you see it. Next. Access to talent and resources. You know, when you work around here for a while, you know, the first thing you realize is you could actually hire and fire people every day in Ghana. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. I just got to a point where I said, well, you have to actually train them. Sad enough, but you have to. There's no already made folks walking around that you can plug and play. So I think innovators in this ecosystem need help.
other thing we haven't done a good job with is at 60 years old, you're asked to go home in the prime of your life. 60 is the new 40. They ask you to go home. And I've seen a lot of 60-year-olds on retirement walking around in the malls. They don't really know what to do with themselves. Can we harness the experiences that these people have? In Copenhagen, I worked with a gentleman who was a retired investor and was brought in to mentor young graduates from the Danish Technical Institute. And now they have, in 15 years, they have a company that has gone global. That's 3Shed. Okay, you go in there and he's sitting there like a godfather. Can we use the same talent here? Okay. Our business people need help with financial management. Our innovators need help with accounting. I talked about the organizational structure. They need some advisory, ongoing basis, and M&E. So I think these are some areas that we can actually help, and there is talent available. You know, I did product development for 16 years. I'm still a product developer at heart, not a university president. Nobody has ever asked me to come sit on their board and help them with anything. Maybe that changes from today. But not too many, because then again, I will not be able to bring value, you know. I don't just want to be on a board for the sake of being on the board. I want to make sure that there's added value. Next one, please. So policy. We need strong policy and regulatory framework. Sometimes consultants from abroad or multinational organizations and NGOs do a better job shifting the post in this country than locals. And that is a fact. Okay, we shouldn't pretend about it. So we need help. And I'm looking in this direction because I see a lot of experts on that side. We need help. We need fair trade practices. Okay. I wrote somewhere a couple of months ago that if you produce rice and you import it, produce corn, but import it, produce cassava, but import it, chicken, but import it, what you need is not God. You need a psychiatrist. A psychologist. But those are real things we need. You know, if you develop the products from your innovative ecosystem and you can't sell them locally because the market is flooded by Chinese products. That's one. And two, we have not put premium on our people. If they were going to jail for it, then you have less accident. But then again, because without e-levy, government have no way of collecting taxes from you, so they can't put value on you. You know, so those are things that we need. We really need. We need the money. We need to. And by the way, I'm not supporting the levy. I think I wouldn't know where that money will go to. So let's promote investments. You know, let's encourage access to loans and grants. If you look at the U.S., when I worked in R&D was completely incentivized. If Siemens invested in R&D or Becton and Dickinson invested in R&D, at the end of the year, they file taxes, they get some money back. If you work in a fast food place like I did for several years, flipping burgers, government is incentivized to hire high school students. McDonald's was incentivized to hire high school students and college students to work for them. So there is a role that government can play. And again, as our NGO friends can help us convince them that there is room for that. So government can invest in capital for equity. You know, just get them started, and then you buy them out. Promote investment behaviors, right? In Ghana, you know, and I can speak for my students, they just go around begging for screws, you know, nuts and bolts, and they are struggling because even the university systems do not understand that you have to make such provisions for the students to be able to build early prototypes and stuff like that. We continue to encourage them to get a certificate and go get a job. The question we don't answer is who is going to create that job for them? So if you come to Academic City University College, you do 4 modules in entrepreneurship. And when your parents ask me whether you are going to get a job or not, I tell them, you're going to create a job for others. think that's my last slide, please. So that is essentially it. I apologize for the hiccups. Any questions, insights will be appreciated. So the need to support the early stage cannot be overemphasized. The message is, at the same time, the innovators have to put structure around them, because it is only with that kind of structure that it's easy to really articulate your value proposition and get the needed support that you need to realize your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Matt Baguluri, for that concise, straightforward message. And his presentation is so direct, touched on important things. Intellectual property. I just came into contact with intellectual property, I think a year ago from MESTI. And it's an area that you would marvel. I mean, we are doing so much, but we have less information on intellectual property and how to also register our innovations. It's a whole area. So I'll be waiting for Mr. Wachi to also come from MESTI to give us some few thoughts on that. And the issue of adding value to knowledge. There was some time ago, somewhere last 2 years, a whole professor at CSIR woke up one day, you know the CSIR bungalows around cantonments, woke up one day and there were earth-moving machines trying to dig or like more or less break air accommodation down, because that whole space has been sold to some investors, some Chinese people who wanted to put up some facilities. So 3 or 4 of those staff bungalows of CSR was going to be pulled down and given to some people, and they've not been spoken to. So putting value on knowledge is one issue that we need to also look at. And then the last but not the least, I was looking at the policy and then the regulatory framework. We have someone from FDA here to also give us some a little bit on the policy and then the regulatory in terms of aligning our things to standards. So we will be looking at that. So I would want to move on. Do we have some questions for our keynote presenter? He was so straightforward. He's really a teacher. He teach you, or he presents in such a way that you have less to talk about. Okay, but yes, let me give you this. So
right.
Your name and where you come from, so that by way of introduction.
All right, thank you. My name is William Brown Akwe. I'm head of department for the Information Technology Department at Ghana Communication Technology University. And I'm happy to be here. And thanks, Prof, for your presentation. Very concise and very straight to the point. I just want to make a comment on the research side of it. And a lot of time we talk of innovation, and innovation comes out of research. And I firmly believe in that. And one area I think we overlook in Ghana is the research side of it, right? There are faculty members, lecturers, researchers who will tell you being a researcher in Ghana is almost a sacrifice for poverty. I mean, but we need to emphasize the research side and component of innovation. We cannot innovate if we don't look into how to build products and learn from our mistakes. Unfortunately, I mean, research allowance for a lecturer in Ghana is a pittance. It's 2,000 cedis. And you're expected to come out with research. Most faculty do research to get promotion, and they are not looking at innovation. It costs too much money. There's no incentive in it. Yes, as Prof said, money is important. And we are not saying it's only about money. The resources, bolts and screws, as Prof said. Right? Yes, we need to focus on that. And there's a gap where I see when it comes to innovation. And that is where is the linkage between research and innovation. And I think it's something that we need to look into as a discussion today. Research is necessary. It is important. Any organization, any country that is not invested in research is doomed to fail, because you're always going to be buying technology from those who have done that research. And those who do that research will not sell it to you for cheap, because they've invested time and money and effort. And for us to be able to get into that ecosystem of innovation, we need to build and strengthen our research focus as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From, is it Ghana Telecom? Ghana Communication University. Yes. Technology. Yes. Okay. All right.
Thank you. So my name is Solomon Chum. I work with Reach for Change as a country manager. Prof, thank you for the thoughts you've shared. My question is, you seem to have touched a lot on what ecosystem players can do to support. But I'm also curious to know what you think in terms of the role that entrepreneurs themselves or startups can also play to propel them to the next level.
I think it's a direct question. If I get one more direct question, then I'll ask Prof to respond. Yes, Madam from the British Council.
British High Commission. Thank you. Thank you so much. Professor, that was a fantastic presentation. I really enjoyed it. One of the questions I had was, I was having this conversation with someone earlier on, and one of the statements we find when we talk to investors is that they say there's not a shortage of money, there's a shortage of good projects. So I wanted to really understand what your views are in terms of that statement, whether there's a shortage of money or whether there's actually a shortage of good projects. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see a link from your question with Hess from the business. Yes.
Okay, so let me start from what entrepreneurs themselves can do. You know, I think that entrepreneurs are usually self-selected. So, for instance, when I started my entrepreneurship program, I was wondering whether it should be compulsory for everybody or allow people to self-select. So, if they self-select, there's a level of energy and enthusiasm that comes with it for success. So, look, I think sometimes you have to start off from your own savings. When I started the ventilator project, I spent the first $4,000 was my own money. Now, don't ask me what would have happened if I didn't have 4,000 in the bank. Families and friends. If you look at how it's done in the developed world, family and friends believe in the idea, they pitch in, and you keep moving. Because sometimes it has to take a bank more than just a business proposal on paper. They really want to see prototypes. You should at least try to get to the prototype stage. Now, I also mentioned earlier that a young kid who wants to be the Elon Musk of Africa came to me looking for help. So part of the entrepreneurial enthusiasm is the courage to go out there and ask for help. Never stop asking for help. I tell my students that all the time. If you are embarrassed for asking for help, something is pathologically wrong with you. Okay, you should ask for help. Sometimes you can get your ideas into university research. Again, the framework is not there. We have not been able to find a way to transition ideas from the university environment into industry or from industry to the university, but those are opportunities. So I think, you know, you have to demonstrate leadership, and the leadership is to be brave enough to go out there and find partnership, to be brave enough to go out there and present your ideas to the right set of audience. And also, as I indicated, the kids are afraid to share their ideas because they think they will get stolen. That is all transitional. You know, my guidance to them is, if you have a great idea now, you will always have a great idea. Don't worry about this one being stolen. Nobody can ever do your idea the way that you would have done it yourself. So there is still opportunity for that. Now, on your question, whether there is money and there is ideas, what I hear from my environment is that we are not short of ideas. We can't find funding because nothing seems to come out of there. But there is a chasm. There's a chasm between the Ghana industries and our university system. We need a handshake. Because if you go to KNUST and you look at senior design projects when the students are finishing, you can take a bunch of them into commercialization. You go to Accra Technical, you see same. So I really don't know how this transition happens, but there are good product ideas. Now, there's a lady here that came up to me a couple of weeks ago, and she seems to be doing exactly that, or trying to do that for the healthcare space. Try to figure out what ideas are in the universities and how she can transition them into industry. So I think we have to be deliberate. The other point I'm going to make, a little bit of controversy, now that I have a government official here, is that, look, our university system receives subsidies and supports from government. We have never held them to any M&Es. Never. We never tell Legon, for this money you get from government, every year you need to produce 60 patents, 120 journal publication, 6 startups, and it is possible. You know, the human animal thrives best under adversity. If you don't believe me, look at what is happening in Ukraine. When you have to fight under pressure, you would. So I think we are too comfortable, and we need to stop being comfortable and move. I saw a product on TV recently of a crib. And I tried to reach out to the kids that designed the crib, the rotating crib, right? That can take a bunch of babies. And I think it's Wade Meyer, one of these influencers. And I sent him a mail. I said, can you get me in contact with these guys? I could help them with product development, and they could bring this product to the global marketplace. I'm still waiting. So do we have anybody in our setup, whether it's Mesty, wherever it is, that when such ideas come into the public space, there's a deliberate effort to actually help them incubate the idea and bring it to the marketplace? That is how you create jobs. So somehow, somewhat, we just need to sit down with a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper and just answer the simple question: what do we want to be when we grow up? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we are doing well with time. The answer was just straightforward. Those with other questions, we would move it after the presentation from Dr. Yao Bediako, CEO of Yimachi Biotechnology, to give us the Yimachi journey, how supportive was the innovation and research ecosystem in Ghana to be good with time. So those with questions, you can write them down at the appropriate time. We'll open it up.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't have any slides because I actually wasn't entirely clear what I was supposed to talk about today. But I think some communication fell through the cracks. So when I saw the thing, I was like, oh, I'm set to give an actual plenary or a keynote. So bear with me if I'm slightly less organized than I would be, but I'm asked to talk about my startup, so that should be easy. I've been pitching for 2 years, so that should be straightforward. So what I'm going to I left Ghana in 2000, came back in 2019. So spent almost 20 years away. I left after high school, went to college in the US, followed up with a PhD. Did 2 postdocs, one in Kenya, one in London, and then found my way back to Ghana, to the University of Ghana. So the story starts when I came back to Ghana, 2018, 2019, joined WACBIP, who we've become quite famous because of COVID and sequence, end up becoming director of WACBIP one day. I mean, I'm an ambitious person, so I don't see the point of doing something if you're not ambitious. So my goal in coming back was, Prof. Awandare brought me back, but he's going to go on to bigger and better things, as he has. He's now Pro Vice Chancellor. So there'll be a new need for a new director of WACBIP, and why not me? So that's why I came back to Ghana. But after 6 months of being in the University of Ghana, I realized I wasn't sure if that was actually my path anymore. Anybody who's worked in universities, public or private, but usually, especially public, you get frustrated very easily with the pace of things. Now, I'm a scientist. Science is fast-paced. If you are slow in science, you get left behind. You cannot be internationally competitive. And I came to Ghana not to be a Ghanaian scientist. I came to Ghana to be an internationally competitive scientist who happened to work in Ghana. And that's a very important distinction. So I began to ask myself, what else could I do? I spent all these years training to be a scientist. My skill set is deep, but it's pretty limited, right? I mean, you get a PhD, all of a sudden you price yourself out of many jobs because people say we can't afford you. And you have very specialized skills, but it's in a particular area. And in Ghana, if you have a PhD in the sciences, the real job for you is to teach at the university. Really, there's nothing else that most people would think of. And I looked around and I saw all these great students that were producing at WACVIP who are becoming PhDs, and we're losing them. We basically turned our brain drain into a more expensive version of the old one. My generation and generations before me, you lost us at high school. We went to the US, we never came back. Now we're training people to get a PhD, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on them, and then they leave and they have no job, so they stay away. So we've actually just made our brain drain more expensive. But as well, I've lost them at high school and let America invest in their tertiary education. Now we invest in their tertiary education and we lose them because there's nothing for these highly trained, highly skilled people to do. So I was at risk of going back away. I was getting to a point where I can't stay here anymore. And then I thought, you know what? No, I came to Ghana because I really wanted to come back to Ghana. I'm not going to be that guy who goes back with my tail between my legs that I failed. Because, you know, everybody there is waiting for you to come back and say, yeah, we told you it was too frustrating. And Prof probably knows this. Everybody out there is like, why are you going back home? You will come back and tell us that we were right. So I was determined not to be one of those people. And so I asked myself, what could I do? And of course, being exposed to the US and in Europe, I knew about biotech. Biotech is commercial science. It's a $500 billion a year industry. It is how we get all these innovations. Somehow in Africa, in Ghana and much of Africa, we don't know biotech. We think of research, we think of Noguchi. We think of, you know, public, typically academic research, which is important, but that's not the only area of biomedical research. And Prof talked about patents. I just looked it up as he was talking. In 2020, China filed 1.4 million patent applications. Malaysia, who we like to compare ourselves to, filed 1,444. Ghana filed 12. All right. So that, I don't think we have to say anything else about patents. We're just not producing any research output. And it's not just Ghana. In general, research output, Africa accounts for about just under 1% of global research output. So we talk a lot about capacity building. The last 10, 15 years, World Bank has pumped $500 million or even more than that into building centers of excellence. WACVIP is one of these centers of excellence. Ghana has at least 3. They've done this all over the continent. Wellcome Trust, DFID, or now, UKCDI. All of this, NIH, they've all pumped money into capacity building, and yet we still make less than 1% of the research output. It means there's a problem. We're thinking only about training and not thinking about what these people do when they're done. So I decided to try to do something about that. It was either do that or probably end up draining back out. And so I began to ask myself, what could I do? And the thing I came up with, I want to set up a biotech company. I want to keep doing research because that's what I'm good at and what I enjoy doing. But I don't want to do it with the constraints of an academic system and also in the inherently unsustainable way that we do research in this country. All the research in Ghana is funded externally. All. And I don't say this, I'm not exaggerating. It is all. Noguchi, the name tells you where the money is coming from. It's primarily funded by the Japanese government. If you walk into Noguchi, which I have worked there, you walk in, every instrument has a Japanese flag on it. Gift of the people of Japan. Now we're grateful. The new building, $25 million from the Japanese government. Okay. KCCR in Kumasi is German. WACVIP is a hodgepodge of money from the Wellcome Trust, from the World Bank, from all these places. I've never received money from the Ghana government for any research I've ever done. And I think most of my colleagues are probably the same. Right? So Ghanaian research is externally funded, which means the agenda is set outside. Just as COVID hit, I lost a £300,000 grant. Not because I didn't win it. It was from the Royal Society in the UK. Highly prestigious. Spent 9 months in multiple interviews trying to get this grant. I won it, but the letter said, we're so sorry, the UK government has cut ODA. And so there is no money for the Royal Society to disperse. So we're really proud of you, but we can't give you any money. Now, thank you for the pride, but I don't need pride. Doesn't put food on my table. And the gentleman just told you what university lecturers make. Without research, I'm sorry, you're not going to attract anybody to come back. Who is going to come back after spending 20 years studying to come and make 3,000 cities a month? I mean, it's insulting. My wife saw the. My wife is not Ghanaian, but when she saw my appointment letter, she laughed and said, "The vice chancellor must be kidding that he signed this." But thankfully, I had research grants, so I could pay myself. So for 2 years, I was paying my own salary because I had research grants. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm painting the picture of, I think Prof said it best. There's usually there's a trigger that makes somebody become an entrepreneur. I was an academic. I still am an academic. I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. Ghana made me an entrepreneur because of the frustration and the challenges that I faced. And I hope that what we can do in creating an ecosystem is to give more people the opportunity to become entrepreneurial. Because I think that is what is going to take for us to move on. We cannot just wait for government. Government has to do its part. But I think we need to make an environment where entrepreneurs who have ideas can take matters into their own hands and can move forward. So in 2020, a group of us founded Yamachi. Yamachi is a cancer research company, a cancer biotech company based here in Accra. Yamachi is trying to do something about a serious problem we have globally, which is precision medicine, precision oncology, is skewed predominantly towards Caucasians because nearly all the research has been done in people of European ancestry. 78% of genomic data publicly available is Caucasian. 2% comes from people of African descent. And yet we account for what? 20-something of the world's 20-something% of the global population. The African continent is also the most genetically diverse human population anywhere in the world. Nearly all global diversity you can find among the people who live in Africa, east, west, north, south. So Africa is the best place to actually study human genome. If you study African genomes, you actually learn something about Caucasians, you learn something about Asians, you learn something about Latin Americans. Because at the end of the day, evolutionarily, guess what? We're all African. We all started in Africa and then it began to migrate out. We just look different on the surface of the skin. But in actual fact, if you go back far enough, African genomes reflect global genomic diversity. But unfortunately, Africans have been left behind. And so when you talk about precision medicine, precision oncology, all these new targets, all these new immunotherapies we hear about are largely work best in people of European ancestry and work worst in people of African descent. Now, cancer is a growing problem. I'm sure everybody here has a story of somebody. I lost my dad to cancer. A number of people have lost relatives or know of somebody who has cancer. 1 million people get cancer every year in Africa, at least. 700,000 of those people die every year. Cancer kills more people in Africa than malaria. And yet all our research, because it is externally funded and is driven by global health sort of views on what Africa needs healthcare-wise, all our research is infectious disease. We do hardly any non-communicable disease research. And yet our people are dying of cancer, of diabetes, of heart disease. We are not 60 years ago where you died before your 40s, and so what you had to worry about was malaria. Now our life expectancy is longer, which means NCDs, lifestyle diseases, diseases that hit you in your later years are becoming apparent. Now, if you think about cancer, cancer behaves differently in African people than it does in other people. African women present with breast cancer at a much younger age, for some reason, than Caucasian women. You hear about, get a mammogram in your 40s. There are women in Cape Coast who we are studying who are 27-year-olds with stage 4 breast cancer. A 27-year-old, that's unheard of. Now, is it genetics? Is it environment? We're still teasing it out. The bottom line is cancer here does not look like cancer there. And so till we start studying cancer here, we will not be able to help our people. So Yamachi is aiming to understand cancer from people of African descent. So that's the gap. Now the opportunity I already hinted at. We're sitting on the gold mine of genomes in Africa. It's more valuable than gold, oil, all these other resources. The human genome in Africa reflects global diversity, which means if you can do it right, pharma companies in the US would love to get their hands on data from African populations. Because it's not just for people of African descent, it's for everybody. So that's the opportunity. The African genome is extremely valuable in research. But of course, we want to position ourselves such that we're not exploiting. Right? It's not about harvesting a natural resource like cocoa and then importing chocolate. We want to build research capacity so that we can add value to the data that we are collecting, the raw material. and then bring ourselves to the global table to say, look, African data is important. We're not just going to take our data and use it and then come back and try to sell us something. We are going to be part of the process of developing it. And so in order to do that, we have to build capacity. So we planned, all right? I started talking to people in 2019, began to put a team together. I have a really rich team. I wish I had slides up, but you can look at our website, www.yamachi.com, YEMAACHI. It's actually Machi. So we say Yamachi, sounds Japanese, so you can hide, oh, about the company is Japanese, they must be good. Turn out we're a bunch of Ghanaians and Nigerians and other Africans. But Yem in Frafra means knowledge. Amachi in Ever means health or medicine, sorry. And Machi in Tree is good morning. Put it together, it's a new dawn for knowledge on health in Africa. That's what Yamachi stands for. So I put a team of people together and we began operations, or began pitching. Let me start with that. We began pitching in April of 2020. I am the CEO, but I'm a scientist. I haven't got Prof's background in business. I didn't know, well, now I do, but I didn't know what a KPI was, what is a safe, what is a convertible note. But I had to, you fake it till you make it. So I had to learn very quickly because I'm going to talk to business people and they expect me as a CEO to have a basic level of competence. Yes, the science is cute, but can you run a business? But I began pitching, and I'm happy to say after many no's, we began to hear a few yeses. We will talk later, I guess, about how it is to do it in Ghana. It's tough. A business like mine is not one that investors are used to hearing about. Many of them said, I love the vision. I really hope you succeed, but I don't see how I'm going to make any money, so I can't invest. So actually, the diaspora is where we had our best opportunities early on. Ghanaians, Nigerians, people living abroad, doctors, some of them were medical people, others were just working people who had a little bit of money to, maybe not put into their retirement account and said, I want to contribute to something that's revolutionary for Africa. And so the African diaspora is something for any entrepreneur in the room. If you're pitching to local investors and you're not getting any traction, tap into the African diaspora. The local investors are waiting for someone to invest before they'll come in. There are people who try to invest in me at twice the valuation, or in fact, at 1.5 times the valuation I had gone to them earlier on, because I had managed to raise some money from the diaspora. So we began to raise money. We got into Y Combinator. We're the only Ghanaian company in our batch in Y Combinator, only one of 15 from the continent of Africa, out of 370, out of 15,000 applicants. All right. But that was great validation, gave us, sort of view into, American VCs. And we've kept, trying to raise money. But raising money is just raising money. There are a lot of people who get caught up in, I've raised this. They are raisepreneurs. They just raise and raise and raise for the sake of raising. And I've learned very quickly, actually, YC teaches you this. It's not about how much money you've raised. That's not the value of your company. The value of your company is what your company is producing. And YC's tagline is make something people want. Do people want what you're making, and is your company succeeding at doing that? No matter what your supposed valuation is, those valuations are just paper. They're imaginary money anyway, if you think about it. So we've began operations. We have a lab in Abelempe. We are focused on molecular biology. We are interested in understanding cancer, like I said, from the African sort of genome. And we're looking to leverage that data to partner with pharma and biotech around the world to develop the next generation of diagnostic tests and immunotherapies that will, for once, include Africans, not exclude other people, but will include us. Additionally, we're interested in molecular diagnostics. In our part of the world, there's very little molecular diagnostic capacity. Post-COVID, everybody knows what a PCR machine is. But PCR machines are used for much more than testing for COVID. In our part of the world, cancer diagnostics is mostly driven by histopathology. So they make a slide of the tissue and that's it. In Europe and North America, it's now mostly molecular. There are panels you can do looking at genes, looking at mutations, and all of this influences how you are treated. So we are looking to try to provide some of that locally as well. It's important that we're not just about research, but we need to translate that research into products that people can benefit from. So that is sort of where we are. We are currently obviously headquartered in Accra, but it's an African play. So we have activities. There are partners now in Nigeria. We're also in Kenya. We're looking to scale as, God willing, we raise more money and we grow our team. But I would say again, we're not a Ghanaian company. We're not an African company. We are a global company that happens to be headquartered in Accra. And I think that's very important for many entrepreneurs to try to do. We are too happy to just be a big fish in a small pond. We should be aiming to be a household name. When you think of Apple, most young people don't think of the fruit anymore. They think of a phone or a laptop, right? I want one day people to think Yamachi and think, those people doing that in remarkable cancer research. In fact, the face of cancer research maybe globally. I know I'm running out of time. I talk too much usually. Helps sometimes. But I will talk about challenges. It's not been very, it's not been easy, and it's still not easy. But I think that also makes it exciting. If it was easy, then everybody would do it, and so it wouldn't be worth doing, in my opinion. One of the biggest challenges has been the ecosystem, and we're talking here about has the ecosystem been supportive. My question is, what ecosystem? To be honest, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just being realistic. Until we accept that we don't have much of an ecosystem, we can't build one. So we need to be realistic about what we have. We don't have much of an ecosystem for innovation and research in this country. The fact that my company is probably the first, or at least one of the first, biotech startups really focused on research tells you that. Noguchi has been around since the 80s. We've been doing research in Ghana, but we've never made that transition away from just purely academic research for the sake of papers to translation. So the ecosystem has been difficult. Investors are not familiar with this, so it's very difficult to convince them that what you're doing makes sense, even though venture capital is pouring money into biotech all the time in Silicon Valley or on the East Coast of the US. In Ghana, they are like, hey, what's that? It sounds too complicated, more opportunities locally. And perhaps we can be part of that movement. I hope that we can get to the point where we can begin to support other entrepreneurs. One thing I'll just put out, since we may have some government people, customs. For companies like us, we import 25% of my raise. GIPC, they are listening to us. I know there are mechanisms in place that we can apply my lifespan. All right. I don't have 6 months to wait for a machine. I have the money in my pocket now. I order it. It comes in 2 days, and we start. Because I have investors who are waiting to see what's your traction. I can't tell them I'm waiting for the government for 6 months. They'll tell me, okay, sorry, we'll go and invest in those people in Rwanda, where things are like very snappy. So I think Ghana could maybe make things a little bit more conducive. But we are proud to be here. We're proud to be Ghanaian, and we want to be contributing. So I think maybe I'll end there. I hope I've given you a flavor of who we are, what we're trying to do. We're always looking for partners. I know British Council is here, or is it British High Commission? I don't know. High Commission, even better. So we're really excited about partnership. We have a Gates grant, actually, so we secured $1 million grant from the Gates Foundation, which was a big deal for a company that didn't exist a year ago. It's your one way. It's not just investors. If you can do work and get grants, that's free money. No equity asked for. They just give it to you and say, please hit your targets, and we're fine with you. So grants, another thing that we're looking for. So if there are any people here who know of grants I can apply for, I'm very good at writing grants, so we will do that. But really excited to be here, happy to engage, answer any questions I can, and to learn from everybody here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. from Yamachi. At least I can identify with the first one. Yem, I never knew medicine. The Machi, Dawn. Good. That's powerful, Yamachi. But when I saw it, it was more like some Noguchi-like name. All right, so your presentation is also straightforward. You gave us how you started yourself, and it came extempore. So do we have some questions or some few contributions? Let me pick just one, so that, yes, madam.
Mine is very simple. So are you still at the university, or have you quit? Are you still at the university, or have you quit? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's so beautiful. I like that. I like that. So you are still in the university and you are out there. Okay, let me pick another contribution, the last one, so that we can think we are not doing too well with time. Yes. Oh, your hand was up earlier, so you deserve to go next.
Yeah, just a little contribution to what he said about the ecosystem. My name is Samakumea. I'm from KNUST. Okay. At least he is lucky that they have set up a private, equity. But if the university itself was to go into commercialization of these ideas, the procurement law alone is enough to make you very uncompetitive. And that if we are dealing with ecosystem and we want institutions, especially public institutions, that do research to commercialize, then that is a big issue. Because you go to the same market with the private sector who is also competing, and your machine, you have to go through procurement. Apart from the time wasting, it is also a higher cost. And at the end of the day, when you go to the market, your prices will be very high. Thank you.
My name is Samson Etiaku Amponsa from University of Environment and Sustainable Development. No, UESD, Sumenya. Yes. Mine is question and contribution at the same time. When Prof was doing his submission, he made mention of young entrepreneurs finding it challenging to get financial support. This is what I've also realized. Some entrepreneurs get financial support both locally and externally, but what they produce out there do not meet the taste of our local consumers. Citing this company, Ekunfi Pineapple Juice, as an example, is a company government invested huge sums of money to finance it. But then within Cape Coast and its environs, when you are looking for their products, you not even get them in the shops. Amin Sangari is situated at Cape Coast. Recently, they had about 6 million Ghana City support. The produce that they bring out, you can't even get them within Cape Coast Township. So there are certain challenges that our researchers will have to go into it. Why our local people do not patronize in the product produced in Ghana? Is it that the produce are not good, or you get a question? Good. Good. So, good. My contribution is that the researchers we have should do it into it. Why are our local consumers not patronizing our product? If it's about misconception, let's all do well and clear that misconception. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Because of time, I want to just hazard a distance to his question. Because my kids are always taking Ekunfi juice, and it is local. Maybe it is I see it more because of where I work. Okay, I'm Percy Anna Bukari, the MC for today. I'm the vice president of the Ghana Institute of Planners, and I'm the managing partner of Plan Consult, a research firm. So it's more about the supply chain. It's about distribution. That is why you may not find it in Cape Coast. But maybe the supply chain, people are taking it to Accra. So the question is not local. Maybe you are talking about local, as in close to the environs of where the thing is produced. But Ekunfi juice is not everywhere. I was in Bolga, I was in Bunkrugu Yoyo. From in between Walwale, Gambaga, Nalerugu to Dankanduru, to Bunkrugu itself, that stretch. I mean, the kids are taking Ekunfi juice. Then I went to the Inzima side, right from the junction from Princess Town, from Princess Town to Axim Junction, down to Kwame Nkrumah's Junction, Eziama Kekam, Nkrofo Junction, down to the new oil hub, to Atwabo. Then you can even go as far as Elembele, down to Elubo in Pataba Road. That whole stretch, the kids, we did some work on evaluation of this feeding and a number of things. And they are using Ekunfi juice. Then you go to my own home, from Boga through Navrongo to Sandema, down there to this Yizesi. They are also using a coffee juice. So I think that one, maybe it is the supply chain. Yes. So we would want to move into the panel discussion. But before we do that, we want to acknowledge the presence of a number of people here. We will be doing it in series and sequence. I don't want to use the words because I have scientists here. So Dr. Collins Yebua Afari, Director for Kofi Annan IT Center. I think he's here. Can we acknowledge? Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming. We also have Mr. Kweku Esuman Kwanzaa, Country Director for Huawei. Oh, yes. Beautiful. Huawei. I'm from China. Okay. We also have Professor Ike Akowa from KNUST. Oh, Prof. Yes. We also have Professor Kweku Apia Edu. Oh, MNE. From the Office of the President. Let's see. Yes. MNE. Yes. Good. We have Professor Irene Ejiri, Dean of the School of Agric, University of Ghana. Yes. We also have reps from the Imperial College, Sarah and Ishmael. Yes, good. We are partnering with them on a number of projects. We have Dr. William Quay, Director CSR Stepri. Wilhelmina. Dr. Wilhelmina Quay from Stepri, CSIR. Let's see you. Oh, okay. Stepri, your office is behind Standard. Oh, okay. All right, so we want to move into the panel discussion. The first here is we are looking at from the lab to the marketplace, the role of ecosystem players in advancing commerce. From the lab to the marketplace, in between there, what players would do. And we want to introduce Mr. Edwin Kujo as one of our panelists. Mr. Edwin Kujo is the Executive Director, Special Enterprise Ghana. With a round of applause, let's welcome him. Yeah, so you take Miss Perlin Budu, the country manager for Glovo Ghana. Oh, Glovo. Wow. Glovo has become so popular that COVID, you sit in your home, you request anything you want, even food, hot kenke, Glovo will bring you. I'm a beneficiary of your. I have some TZB at Hacho. They bring me some all the time. Okay. So we also want to introduce Enyonam Kakani, Executive Director, Mirepa Capital Limited. Mirepa Capital Limited. Mirepa. Oh, good time. Mirepa. Oh, Mirepa. It's just like the Yamachi. Mirepa. And I'll say Mirepa. Oh no, this one. I will be castrated. Mr. Franklin Owusu Kakari. Yeah, he's not here, but he's ably represented by Mr. Bat Planche. I remember that one. Bat Planche. Yes. From the NEIP, National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. Program, yeah? Yes. Oh, John Kuma was the first director. He's now a deputy minister. Okay. Then I think the last on the list is Nana Sewa Boating, Head Strategy, Partnerships and International Collaboration, Food and Drugs Authority, formerly FDB. When you were FDB, it was wrong. You were closing shops down. I mean, up and down. Okay. All right. So thank you very much. We would want to move straight into the discussions. Yes. So the first round. We would want to start with no other, but since Mr. Edwin is here with us, what's the role? What is the role and the contribution of business association networks like yours in promoting innovation ecosystem? And this may also go for a number of you. So the role that your institution play in the ecosystem by way of promoting innovation.
Thank you. I work with Social Enterprise Ghana. We operate as a network of about 840 high-impact social entrepreneurs. In addition, we work with hubs, innovation hubs, that help in training and developing these impact businesses. And as a network, we operate in diverse ways in supporting develop social innovators, social entrepreneurs, hubs, and small businesses that address issues, social issues in particular, be it issues with food security, and research obviously plays a major role where we collaborate with research institutions to develop data, information, and know-how to support these social businesses to grow and make more impact. Equally important is areas of policy, and I'm happy that Prof and other speakers mentioned that. Indeed, organizations on their own don't have the time and ability to engage government in developing policy and programs and interventions that support these startups or impact businesses. It is in that regard that networks like us that can mobilize people, businesses are in position to engage government to develop policies that support businesses and entrepreneurs in that regard. Thank you.
Tell us this in line with the global story. Yes, how you are also helping within this ecosystem.
Yes, so thank you so much for that, and thanks for the invitation. So Glovo is a startup that is a tech company. It has its roots in Spain, so it was started off in Spain and has spread to various countries. So we were able to actually launch the brand here in Ghana last year. And what we do is that although most people see us as a delivery company, I'm sure you've seen some couriers on the road with bicycles or motorbikes and yellow bags on the back of their bike. What we do is that we're actually not only a profit-oriented company, but we are also social impact-minded. So wherever we operate, we want to make sure that we have net zero carbon emissions. We also cultivate SMEs. We cultivate a structure or an environment for entrepreneurs to thrive. So currently in Ghana, for example, we have close to 2,000 partners that collaborate with us in Accra, Tema, and Kumasi, and over 90% of those are actually SMEs. So we work to support them and to help grow their businesses. And there are various stories of impact in terms of how businesses have been digitalized through collaborating with Glovo. And many people, this is their first time putting their business online on the internet or on an app. And we also have programs that help couriers. So the couriers that collaborate with us are all freelancers. They are not employed by our company. They choose when to go online and when to make delivery. So some of them are students studying and at the University of Ghana or other institutions and decide to do this in their free time. Some of them have other jobs and also do this in addition to that. And we're actually starting a program in partnership with Impact Hub to create, it's almost like an incubator for any courier that is interested in starting a business. We actually help them to develop the skills that they need and the tools that they need to be able to build a successful business. So that's a little bit about Glovo and then the role that we are playing in ecosystem building and innovation.
Thank you, Mrepa. Also, maybe respond to this in line with the Mrepa story.
Thank you very much. So Mrepa Capital is one of the enterprise support organizations. And what we do is to implement some of the development projects that the DFIs have. And in addition to that, we also provide other capacity building and
What's the DFI?
development finance institutions. Yes. And then we also have other capacity building and investment readiness programs that we have. So that's one aspect of the business. And then the second aspect is an impact fund that we are currently raising that is going to be investing in Ghanaian SMEs that are looking for financing in the missing middle. And for us at MERPA, we are very engaged in the ecosystem and in building the ecosystem. And so some of the things that we've done is supported with the setup of IIGH, which is Impact Investing Ghana, and then also with the Ghana Venture Capital and Private Equity Association as well. Thank you.
This one. Good. So the rep from the Mr. Batlange from NEIP, you would have to take it from as a body, a government institution. Actually, it's like a special purpose vehicle put up to help the young entrepreneurs. So on your side, what are some interventions that you've come up with? And then how did you plan these interventions? How did you open it up? And then you get people, and what have you done to them so far? And what can be some of the stories? It's 2 or 3 in 1.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Good morning. And I'm excited to be part of this program. I think we are looking at how we can grow the ecosystem so that it can be a place where we all feel comfortable to invest in and continue to grow our economy. So NEIP, National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, is a flagship program of the president since 2017, has been in existence for like 5 years now. And what NEIP has been able to do, actually the objective of NEIP is to provide an integrated national system whereby startups and small businesses can be provided funding. And so over the past 5 years, we have been able to train over 45,000 young entrepreneurs. We've provided funding for 9,350 of them. And the funding ranges between 10,000 cities to 100,000 cities. But actually this year, through the YouStart program, we want to make the minimum 20,000 and a maximum 400,000, based on how the credit assessment of the entrepreneurs who are applying are being graded, and then these fundings are being provided for them. But over the period, we've been able to have quite a number of programs. For example, the Presidential Business Support Program. And that's where we provide 10,000 cities to 100,000 to those individuals. We've been able to have, I think, about 3 presidential pitches where young entrepreneurs who are basically students in schools pitch. About 20 of them go to the finals. Then they pitch their ideas to the president. And almost each year, 1 million Ghana cedis is invested in all these 20 individuals based on how they rank. And then we've been able to see how innovative the young entrepreneurs have been. I remember one of them from KNUST, the lady, I think Ernestina or so, she was doing something amazing by converting plantain into parts. Yeah. So there have been quite a number of innovative programs through the presidential pitch that have been supported. We've had the Student Entrepreneurship Initiative, which is growing in the senior high schools, where we want to inculcate entrepreneurship in the young students so that when they also come out of school, at least the mindset of I want government to employ me, I want to be engaged by government. I mean, we're trying gradually to raise all these notions so that we can have more entrepreneurs to employ actually a lot of people. That's basically the reason why we are in the senior high schools. Also, persons with disability, they actually pay. I mean, all the funding that we are giving are not free. They are paid back. Yes, because after we've invested in you, it's not free money. It's not free government money. So you pay back with an interest rate of just 10%, unlike the other banks that are killing entrepreneurs with all these high rates. For persons with disability, actually, they pay half of the funding that is being given to them. And there's no interest. So if you're giving 10,000, you just pay 5,000 Ghana cedis back. And all these programs, we've tried our best to monitor all these programs and see the progress that they are going. Because as you are able to make good use of the funding, we're also able to pump in more fund into your business because we have been able to track, most especially the number of people that you are also able to employ, because that is the reason why we are giving you fund, and not basically just to invest in your business and don't employ anybody, but the number of jobs that you're able to create, and also not just creating the jobs, but paying them well enough so that they can also be able to sustain themselves with what they do. We also provide tax incentives to young entrepreneurs. I think if you are less than the age of 35 years, you can apply through NERP for tax incentives. We just lead you through the GRA, and then they grant you the incentive. So, I mean, these among many other things we're doing at NERP to ensure that more funding is provided for young entrepreneurs.
Quite interesting. Because you are coming from the government institution, that's why I gave you a lot of issues to talk on. Yeah, so but I'm also from a government institution, but you look at things from a different perspective. Yeah, so what conscious support are you or intervention have you put in place to help enterprises move from the lab to the marketplace? Because you provide the bridge. Because before it moves from lab to the marketplace, they bring the prototypes, you do the checks, all the do's and don'ts, and then the checklist. You do that. And if you are to strictly enforce that, it will be difficult for some of them to also come up. In your institution, what are you doing consciously to also support this move?
Okay, thank you. Before I go ahead, I've had an issue. I just started speaking about what we do without saying what FDA does. So let me just give you a brief background of what FDA does. And I can just say, by way of all of us gathered here, you wake up in the morning and I'm assuming the first thing you try to do is to go to the bathroom and brush your teeth. The toothbrush, FDA regulates that. When the toothpaste that you put on the toothbrush, FDA regulates that as well. When you're done, you take a shower. The soap that you use to take the shower, FDA regulates that. When you are done with taking a shower and you put on your pomade, the lotion, FDA regulates that. So FDA regulates most of the things in our lives. When you're done and maybe you're on some medication, high blood pressure medication, whatever it may be, FDA regulates that as well. So by nature of the work that we do, we regulate food, drugs, cosmetics, clinical trials, and various things in life. And food and drugs is something that you take internally. So when it comes to that area, it's a bit delicate. That's why you had said earlier that, we're enforced and we're trying to make things difficult. But what it is that, let's say the milk that you had taken today, or you're giving milk to your child for breakfast, and there was some contamination. The child had a stomach problem and you took the child to the hospital and it was very acute, and before you know, you're taking your child to the morgue. That's a mistake you cannot reverse. And that's the weight of the work that we do. What we do impacts life. And when we make mistakes, you can't take it back. And so we attach a lot of importance to the work that we do. And that's why sometimes it comes across as we're harsh enforcers. Given saying that though, we realize that we have gotten to where we are as FDA because we allowed for innovation. It takes innovation for us to be able to move to the next step. It takes innovation for us to be able to improve. And so we think of how day in and day out, how we can make our processes simple and how we can make our processes friendly for innovation without compromising safety. And with that said, what we have done mostly for innovation, you had mentioned what are some of the things that we do, is that we have introduced a system, a scheme called the PLS, the Progressive Licensing Scheme. So what that does is that when you come to the FDA, you have something new or something that you're trying to bring to the market. You wouldn't have to fulfill all 100% of the requirements. We have put it in sections. So there's a basic section that you have to fulfill to make sure that whatever you're bringing to the market is safe. And that will constitute about, let's say, about 40%. So when you get to that 40%, we give you a license, like a marketing authorization to be able to sell. And when that happens, we don't leave you there. So we work with you from that, let's say 40% to the 70% and give you a yellow license. And we continue to give you a green license when you get to the 100%. So now you don't have to wait to fulfill all righteousness to get that license. We know that there are people who are innovative, people who want to bring their goods to market. And by way of being able to support them, we give you this graded scheme so that will allow you to take your products to market whilst we work with you to get to the 100%. Thank you.
For that, I will take the second round. And with from the social enterprise group, 2 questions. The first one has to do with what's your scope? Are you across the country, and how is your structure? And then, and specifically, how are you collaborating with all the stakeholders within the young, emerging ecosystem to the innovation space? How are you collaborating with them?
Thank you. The social challenges we are confronted with in Ghana are across the board. It does mean that the social innovators, the social entrepreneurs, we have dotted all across Ghana. So our operations are nationwide. We have 16 regional leads with 16 incubation hubs across Ghana that help in training, incubating, grooming these young social entrepreneurs to address the common challenges that we are confronted with. I believe platforms like this also give us the opportunity to collaborate. So in this regard, we organize regular workshops, regular policy dialogues with relevant government institutions, many a time with Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ministry of Finance, and our very good friends from NEIP. These are platforms that allow social entrepreneurs, social innovators to engage relevant stakeholders to solve and address the peculiar challenges that they are confronted with. Indeed, the other leg of this, what we most always refer to as the financing leg, is one of the things that we believe that our partnership with organizations like Impact Investing Ghana and other like-minded organizations where we organize deals room in collaboration with the Ghana Investment Promotion Council, Ministry of Finance. These are engagements that I believe would inure to the benefit of the various social enterprises and entrepreneurs we have been working with. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam from Global. Also, we want to know, one, your spread across the country, and do you have a conscious department or unit that looks at innovation and then how you bring this innovation into your practice?
Yeah, so currently in terms of our geographical coverage, we're in 3 cities, as I mentioned, Accra, Tema, Kumasi. That would probably change before the end of the year. We actually have a whole department that focuses on innovation.
So that would change. What's in the pipeline, and where are the possible areas we are looking at? Just for someone from the university in Somania is here. Then Prof. Kumasi, Americans, they also want to know.
Kumasi, we're already in
Oh,
Kumasi.
okay, yes. So the environs to Sunyani and the rest. There are people here from Ho and the rest. Tamale.
So the way in which we assess our location, we use a number of metrics, including population, internet penetration. There's a number of different factors we consider before making a decision as to which location to expand to. So as I sit here, I cannot tell you where we're going to be going next, but we will be expanding to various cities. What we do on the innovation side, we're doing a lot of things that have never been done in our industry before. So when you look at our market, for example, we're the first online aggregator of this sort that's offering entrepreneurship classes to our couriers. We have something called the courier trampoline, and the whole idea is that a trampoline is something that you jump on and then it pushes you. So we don't want our couriers to be in a situation where they're in the same position, but we want them to progress economically. So we have a path, and some of the KPIs that we use to assess our performance is how much is my courier earning on a weekly basis, for example. We have tools that calculate and project how many orders we expect to be doing, and then we calculate how many couriers we would need for that period of time in order to make sure that we don't have couriers that are online and are not receiving any orders and are sitting around. So we want to make sure that for the hours that you're able to go online and make yourself available, you're able to make a livable wage that's going to, serve you basically, and it's above the minimum wage. So we're one of the first international collaborators in Ghana that was assessed actually by Fair Work. Fair Work is an independent body that assesses how the gig economy is treating the people that are collaborating on there, because it's something that is here to stay and it's growing. And we actually received first place in terms of the international companies that are here in Ghana on how we are collaborating with these couriers and how we work with them. So that's one of the ways in which we are being very innovative. And I think another aspect of the innovation is also to do with focusing on market penetration. So we don't want to have a product that's just focused on the middle class or the elite, but we want the products that anybody can access. Just like anybody can pick up their phone and go on Google or Facebook, anybody should be able to pick up their phone and make an order for a service through an app and not be limited by price. So we are working a lot on innovation when it comes to different price points and making sure that we're able to penetrate across different market levels using innovative business models. So that's where we are at on the global side.
Yes, thank you very much. I like the KPI side, the key performance indicators, so that you can make key decisions with your indicators and know whether you are measuring growth and where you can also cut in. So the Mrepa Capital, on your side, we would also want to know, do you have a conscious effort? Have you made any conscious effort by way of intervention to look at how you would bring in innovation in what you do and how to scale it up in your operations? And if you can also give us a sense of how you are covered within the system. How many people are you, your catchment area, who are you looking at? Yeah, so 2 in 1.
All right, thank you very much. So we are based in Accra. However, we are able to provide our services across Ghana. And so we've worked in the northern region, in Upper East and Upper West. And we've done some work in the Volta region and the Eastern region as well. And then also we are able to work across Africa because we've supported some programs for Reach for Change in Ethiopia. And this, incidentally, was even during the COVID year in 2020. And so we're coordinating and putting programs together for entrepreneurs in Ethiopia and working with consultants in 3 or 4 different regions, 3 or 4 different time zones. And so now we realize that we're able to provide our support to entrepreneurs wherever they are, because we are able to reach them, and because we also have had experience working with entrepreneurs from other African countries. In some of these countries, we understand what the context is, and we're able to relate that to what their needs are for, on the ground. So that is how at MRIPA we are also using some technology advancements and innovations to provide our services to entrepreneurs, not only in Ghana, but also outside Ghana.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bart Plange, NEIP. I know you are covered across the country. That one, I'm aware of that. What we would want to know is, is it just open, the interventions that you have? Do you make conscious effort to put in some, in terms of your indicators for support, do you put in some indicators relating to innovation in there? And how do you assess that? And can you give us a view, as you said, the story of NEIP for the past 5 years, what that has been?
Okay, so assessing the persons that have applied through NEIP. Actually, we are covered across the country through the training hubs that we use to train the entrepreneurs that apply to an EIP for funding. And so there is an assessment that has been provided for all these incubation hubs that are doing the tour to know how innovative the idea the particular entrepreneur who is actually seeking the funding is actually having. And then we're able to know the amount of money to be able to invest in these projects. Because if you look at some ideas, when they come in, you are giving them half of what they are looking for. Actually, the money goes waste. Because eventually you are not actually able to meet whatever the person needs the required funding for. And so once we're able to assess it with our incubation hubs who are across the country and train, then they will report to the NEIP office that we believe that these businesses are viable for funding, and when you provide the funding, this is what they're able to do. We have an M&E that also assess all these criteria, go to the field, meet up with the persons who have actually applied, get to know what they're actually doing, and then be able to provide the funding for. Because there's a conception that because it's government money, it's free money, you can just apply to any EIP and get a funding for your project. But no, actually you go through quite, I wouldn't say a tedious process, but you'd actually go through a rigorous means to get to the funding. So that when you get it, you don't realize that no, it's not free money. Because if it's free money, we just call names and then you come and get it. And so that's what NEIP is doing. So over the past 5 years, as I mentioned, we have been able to train over 45,000. Now, these individuals who actually apply to NEIP go through training. That is the first requirement. Because when we look at the numbers that are applying, if you actually are giving the monies out because they are applying for applying sake, the monies go away. They don't actually put the monies to judicious use. And eventually, we are unable to achieve the main target for which NEIP has been set up to do. And so after that, then you pitch your business also as well to the incubation hubs who are well-trained and vested to be able to assess all these businesses. And then we're able to know that, okay, then let's provide funding for these businesses. There are other innovative persons that we have come across also that, I mean, once we're able to know that these businesses are good, we can also provide these funding for them. And so that's what we've been able to do. So the process of our application, when it's open, individuals apply online. But eventually, I think after the first call for applications in 2018, we realized that there were other individuals who actually were unable to apply online. So in the subsequent one, in the second one, we made the forms, the hard copies also available at all the district assemblies across the country. So that when you just walk to any district assembly, you are provided these hard copies, which is then forwarded to NEIP. So that we are able to capture all these individuals who are also unable to access the internet. And so in 2019, our form of doing the training was actually a district-based training. So in all the districts across the country, that's how we were able to provide the training and also provide the funding for the individuals that did. And this year we have the Ghana Cares of Batampa program, where we have the Youth Innovative Agric project. We made a call for application in February, and 26,000 Ghanaian young entrepreneurs want to venture into agric. And that's a huge investment that NEIP is looking at, providing adequate funding for every single individual who has actually applied. Because we want to grow the agricultural space, because that is the future of this country. If we are unable to feed ourselves, then we are doomed as a nation. And so these are some of the things that NEIP, as part of the government project to ensure that adequate funding is provided for entrepreneurs, we are doing our best to provide for them.
Let me just give a quick one, a follow-up. So with this, has it come to the time that those who got the support, the first batch, the repayment schedule, have you started any forms of repayment, and how has it been?
Oh yeah, once in those who were given funding in 2018, they are given a 1 year term. So after 2018, 2019, you have to start paying. 2020, you have to finish. But unfortunately, I think, normally some businesses will not be able to provide payback within the period. And so it was extended. And also, unfortunately, there was COVID. So then the president said, all these individuals, give them adequate time. So then this year, we resumed in January, whereby they have to pay all those monies back. Yes.
So it's not that because there's COVID they shouldn't pay.
No,
It's
no,
just
no,
that
no,
they've
no.
been given a
No,
longer.
you've been given a longer period. I mean, and also, there are some businesses they won't be able to pay those monies back. We have to be very frank with ourselves because, let's say, for example, poultry. If the person invested in chickens and then eventually they die, they can't pay the money back. That's the reality. And so then we have to assess all these things. I mean, either they are bad debts or we have to look at ways and means to also push some monies into those businesses.
I get it. All right. I think with this, maybe it should be built in the model. It should be built in the model that there are some businesses. So you leave room for, because if you go the chicken way, somebody will tell you some seedling something.
Yeah.
Coconut slowly shoot to come. Then some plants will not also work. The northern region, where there's only one rainfall, you go plant at the wrong time. Then maybe it must be planned.
The monitoring and evaluation team know how to deal with all these things when they come up. So
Thank you very much. So, Madam from FDA, you've given us some form of staggered approach to what you look out for, by way of not looking out for the 100% compliance at the start. So you've given us the yellow light, the green light, and the rest. So on your part, we would also want to ask that in the space of innovation, and then what has been the numbers, and from where you sit, from the strategic side, what has been the performance of this innovation enterprises that have made applications to you, and what's the penetration like for us?
Okay, thank you. So looking at the numbers, a lot of the innovators or people that come are mostly micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. So based on that, we have also looked to see how we can support that industry as well. So for instance, in that area, one thing that we have done is that for FDA, we have reduced our fees from what it used to be, so that, when people are starting very, very small, they do not have a lot of money, access to finance, like we're saying. So we've reduced our fees in that light. Another thing that we've done too is that there are a lot of innovators coming from different places. Someone might have a very good product, but they might not know even how to go through the processes, and they're even intimidated. Hey, going to the FDA and all the paperwork, yes. So now we have a clientele that is dedicated to that. They will actually sit with the person and help the person to fill out the paperwork so that it makes it easier. Another thing that we've done too is that, for you to be regulated and, have market authorization, we used to have a tall list of paperwork. We've reduced our forms to make it simpler so that it also reduces the turnaround time. Like the gentleman was saying that, government agencies, we don't have 6 months to wait. So we've reduced the amount of forms so that it will reduce the amount of time that we can give the authorization for the person to market. For inventors and for people coming up, they do not have that luxury of time. So that is why we have done that as well. Another main thing too that we always do is that we have a department dedicated called the Industrial Support Department. So even if you bring up something and it doesn't work out, we come and look at the manufacturing place and we say that you have failed, we do not leave you there. We have that team that will come back to your factory and say that, you know what, you failed because of A, B, and C. And then we help you and say that now you need to move this equipment here, you need to do that so that you can pass and be on your way to do what you're doing. So those are the things that we have put in place.
Thank you very much. And I think time is not on our side. I'll just give you a minute each to tell us how you would want how you make your activities public, or how do you communicate some of the good things that you are doing, and how do you scale it up and let the public know that this is what you are doing. So from the social enterprise side, are you open to everyone? How do you get your people on board, and what you are doing? Who and who do you give the information to so that they can also get access to what you do?
Yeah,
in a minute.
Thank you. So as an ecosystem, we work with researchers, to academia, to investors, to policymakers, what have you. So we communicate using our various social media platforms, using the mainstream media to just showcase all the things that we are doing. And I believe platforms like this are opportunities for us to engage relevant stakeholders and ecosystem builders. Thank you for giving us that opportunity.
Good. Lovo, should I ask you the same question? Because you are all over already. Is it a conscious effort? And what do you do?
I think for businesses, right, one thing I would take away from our discussion today is for businesses in Ghana especially to really leverage data. A lot of times people make decisions on business without necessarily having access to the correct data. And one thing I've noticed with companies that are being very successful is the amount of information they have access to just to make a decision. Now, I'll give just one quick example of an entrepreneur in Kumasi. She had a small tabletop restaurant, like just selling food to people. And in December, one of my sales staff met with her and was trying to convince her to join Glovo. Now, she was on the verge of closing down the business because she was like, the students are not around. She's not making sales. It doesn't make sense for her to stay open. So at that point, she was actually going to close up the business and find something else to do. Now, my salesperson convinced her just to join Glovo for 1 month and just to see how it goes, and then make the decision after that. After 1 month, this tabletop business had made 6,000 Ghana cedis worth of revenue. She's still open today, still running, but the difference between a business that was about to close because of failure and a business that is still operational today was data. She now has access to what products is a top-selling top-selling product, what combinations people do, what people normally buy together, what time of the day people are specifically buying, what areas they are at when they are buying, the seasonality. So there's a lot that goes into that to be able to make sure that the business is successful. And I think it's one thing that's missing from a lot of Ghanaian business is data-driven decisions. So that's what I would take away from today.
So data-driven decisions. Data-driven decisions. So decisions should be based on research. Mirepa, how do you also communicate your activities to the general public and to your key stakeholders?
So for us also, it's mainly through a lot of these forums, working through the other ecosystem partners, partnering with other organizations that are doing similar things that we are doing. And so that is how we get to, provide a lot of our services. And for entrepreneurs out there, I would add that there is help for you. You don't have to face all the challenges by yourself. There is help out there. If you're thinking about going global, if you're thinking about being able to scale your business and take your products and services, make them available to others outside, there is help that you can receive to do that. Thank you.
I like that. Mirepa is giving us some comfort. Yes, Neb, I know you've made a number of adverts, call for proposals and all that. But do you consciously put this out, and how do you also monitor it to see the number of people you are reaching out to? And does it help you to make decisions there?
Yeah, I think over the years, we have, from the past experience, has made us realize that we have to make a conscious effort to ensure that, the news of NEIP is reaching out to every single individual, especially young entrepreneurs who are seeking for funding, so that they get to know about government's conscious effort to provide adequate funding to support whatever they are doing. And so initially, after the first call for applications in 2018, there were calls that they don't hear about the applications and all that. So then we had to, anytime we want to make the call, we had to organize either a press conference or find ways and means to get the dailies and then the television stations, talking more about NEIP so that people get to know more about it. We also have social media platforms that anytime there is a call for application, not only in the presidential business support, through all these programs, we'll be able to have partnerships with the Global Affairs Canada. We have been able to have platforms with the World Bank, GRISPCO. They come in with funding to support programs like the Women in TVET and all that. And so, there have been a conscious effort to ensure that it gets out there, people get to know about it, and then people get to apply so that we can provide it. Because there are a lot of people out there who are doing a lot of innovative ideas. And also, if you know any person who is doing something innovative, just let any IP know about it. We'll provide funding for those individuals because that's why it's been set up by the government.
Good. Madam Nana Sewa Boate. Yes, this thing that you've told us about the way you've staggered your regimes, have you made it known to some of these industry bodies? Maybe Association of Ghana Industries. They have various sections. The micro level, the small level, the medium level. Have we met them in their industrial hubs, in their connect? Have you made that conscious effort to explain these things to them so that they are not afraid to come to you? Some of us have been victims of your long checklist. We're trying to export some share butter together with your senior brother or your colleagues, Ghana Standard Authority. We had to run away. So have you made it known to them so that they can see you as partners and come for that support?
We have made it known to them, and another thing that we're doing now is that we have a communications department that actually goes out to share this information so that everyone gets to know. We have a lot of stakeholder engagement. We have a whole lot of pull-up banners and everything about PLS. So it's one of the vehicles that we are using to let everybody know that, you can come to the FDA and we can work with you. And I like you, as you were saying, you spoke about export. And my advice is that now with the African Continental Free Trade Area, that is a big opportunity now. You just don't have to look at Ghana. You have to look at Ghana and beyond. If you're bringing something up, just don't say, I'm trying to do something small, let me tie it and sell it to Ghana. Think about how you can come to the FDA, make sure it's well regulated. We have an import and export department that would help you so that product that you're making in Ghana right now will be able to stand on the international market and then compete. So I would encourage everyone to look globally, just like Yamachi said. Just don't think about Ghana. Think globally and step on the after platform, and you'll be amazed at what you can do.
Thank you very much. Time is not on our side. We want to thank you very much, Mr. Edwin Zukuju. Yes, from the Executive Director of the Social Enterprise Ghana. Then Madam Helen Good, Country Manager Global. Ejonam Kakani, Executive Director, Mrepa Capital Limited. Then Mr. Batplanch from NEP. Yes, and also Nana Sewa Boati, also from Food and Drugs Authority. Yes, not board, Food and Drugs Authority. Thank you very much. So from here, we will all move out. The terrace will You're welcome back to this session. All right, so we are all welcome back to the second session. Professor Akulache would take us through. She would introduce herself and introduce the panel. Then we start the roundtable discussion. So I give the mic to her.
Very pleased to be part of this. So I was just saying that I live here and there, currently at the University of Toronto, and very pleased to be part of this panel. I've learned so much. I am someone who works at the intersection of psychology and religion, and so all this innovation is very fascinating to me. But because I help people flourish, anything that allows us to flourish is part of what I do. So I think I'm well suited to be here. And I'm just going to call up the panelists. I am aware of the limited time. Our first is Mr. Solomon Chum, who has over 20 years of industry experience working across several sectors and is currently the Senior Portfolio Manager at Reach for Change and in charge of the Africa region, and also doubles up as Country Director for the Ghana branch of Reach for Change. Thank you for coming. And then the next is Dr. Blay Ajay, who works in the Food Science Department And some of you may be interested to know that her research is on wine. So, so her research actually stretches from wine to dairy. So anything drinkable is her forte. And the final person is Prof. Irene Ejiri, who is the Dean of the School of Agric at the University of Ghana, where she's been teaching since '95. And her current research is in agro-innovation and technology transfer. Welcome. I have been asked to take off my mask, but since some of us have listened to the president but don't quite believe it, I have to adjust. Okay. So, questions are easy on this side because of all the things we've listened to. So I'm just going to ask you for the next 3 minutes each to tell us what you do and how gender factors in what you do and what, if any, bottlenecks you see for gender and what things can help break down the gender barriers in the pipeline of innovation. So, starting with Mr. Chu.
Thank you. That's quite loaded. So to begin with, like Prof. rightly mentioned, my name is Solomon Chung. I work as the country manager at Reach for Change. Reach for Change, I usually would describe it as a venture philanthropy. We work with social enterprises across 18 countries, working with very innovative solutions to address pressing local problems. And the support we provide to them is by way of grant funding, as well as business skills development, making sure that they are not only growing their business, but they are also scaling their impact, because we are quite focused on social impact. As a country manager, I basically lead in terms of managing our programs, managing our partners, keeping an eye on our staff. And I also work closely with entrepreneurs that we've supported across not only Ghana, but some of the other markets that we operate in. Now, I'm drilling this down to some of the challenges facing women as far as innovation in the social enterprise space is concerned. I would want to focus on a work that we recently did in collaboration with the Swedish Institute in Stockholm, providing some mentorship program for women leaders, social entrepreneurs. And one of the key things that came up in terms of challenges that stifles innovation or makes it difficult for them to innovate, the myriad of problems. The first one is the well-known access to finance. There's this notion that when you're a woman, you basically don't need much to operate. So that in itself enforces a small scale level of business. They are not able to grow and deliver impact on a level that they wish they could do. We are told that in 2020, all global venture capital that was available is only 2.3% out of that went to women-led businesses or female entrepreneurs, which is very sad because what it means is that they can't grow, and the monies that their male counterparts get to expand and innovate and introduce new solutions, they are not able to do that. So that's one major challenge, that's access to capital or funding. The second one has to do with the norms and stereotypes, the cultural barriers that we find. We work with some entrepreneurs, and sometimes you wonder what put them in that kind of situation. And you also begin to wonder why we have some culture, especially in our setting. There's this lady who runs a business, but the dad insisted that she can't be the one on the books as the owner. So it has to be the dad. That's the only way investors are likely to pump money into the business. So she wants to take a decision that she believes is best for the business because she birthed the idea. But you then have this influence coming from the parents, especially the dad, which is not in line or aligned with the vision that she had in establishing the business. So some of these cultural norms and stereotypes also tends to create problems as far as innovation in that space is concerned for women. And then, of course, the issue of unconscious gender bias, which is a big problem. I think you also asked that we talk about actions that can address some of these. Now, these problems I just enumerated are some of the things that came up in the program that we run for these women social enterprises that I mentioned. And in our conversation, we realized that in terms of addressing these challenges, we could take it on two levels. One at the macro level, which means that we expect that ecosystem players, enterprise support organizations, research institutions, as well as other players within the space, consciously advocate to ensure that we are taking actions that deliberately promotes the abilities of women entrepreneurs to innovate in that space. So we need to be conscious of that and make sure that that is being factored into our program design. Oftentimes, the programs that we design to attract startups, for example, do not necessarily conform to some of their needs and expectations. But if we adopt that gender-centered approach to program design, for example, then it becomes easier to get them to realize their full potential in that space. We also expect that government will play its role, on that macro level, where there's deliberate decisions to ensure that women are also being pushed into leadership and decision-making positions to make it possible for them to also unearth some of the talents and innovative ideas and solutions that they have in mind. So that would be what I'll share here for now on the macro level. Now, for the personal level, you need a sharpened sense of awareness. You need to be aware of the barriers that exist in the space that you are venturing into. And that level of awareness in itself is one sure way of finding ways to scale those barriers. So that's what came up in our conversations with these social entrepreneurs that we supported. They acknowledge that they need to be very much aware, and also the final bit is the issue of focus. It's one thing being aware of the barriers and the challenges within the sector that they operate or the space in which they play, but also being focused on the goal that you want to achieve actually helps you scale some of these barriers that has been institutionalized, and in some cases also quite unconscious. So these are the points I'm going to share for now. So if you have any follow-up questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. And since both of you are educators, I want you to factor into your response what you do intentionally to form women to think, think like a man. I think I'm thinking of Dad saying, no, I have to be on the books. Yeah.
That actually riled me a little bit, but that's probably just me. And well, I'm sure half the women here would think the same. So by way of saying who I am and what I do, just 2 days, well, only yesterday, I took a deep sense of who am I. I didn't know this question was coming, but I wrote 4 main things. I'm a family woman, so I'm a wife, a mother, and a home manager. And then I'm a lecturer. That means I'm automatically a teacher. I mentor students and coach them. I do administration, and I help to promote my department and, of course, my university. I also do research, and I'm involved in 4 different research organizations or research projects. three big ones: the Sensory Lab at the university, the Dairy Research Consortium at the university, and the African Network for Sensory Researchers, which is an African consortium for sensory. And then privately also, I like to dabble in entrepreneurial ideas. So I'm trying to build a company, one in the health, one in food, and also one in connecting the dots. So I wear all these hats, and how do I manage? I don't know. It probably means I'm almost everywhere all the time. But this also brings to light a lot of challenges I see in gender, and I'll just focus on one as a lecturer. The area of research or teaching I do is in food science, and it's stereotypically thought of as a female profession. And so from where I sit, the gender challenge is not really about the female, it's this time about the male. And I know it's different because it's always about female empowerment and how to bring up girls to do STEM and how to get them to do math and think like a man, and it's fine. But if I look at my role, I think there has to be a balance. And in my view as a female lecturer in a food science department, what I see is that the men tend to not either take it seriously or they want to move into the hardcore areas of food science where it is seen as a man's role. So if you're doing processing, then you have to do the engineering, you have to do the mathematics. That is the man's part, yes. If it is the formulation, then it has to be the girl. So because we work in the kitchen, but food science is not about kitchen science, it's very different. So I see my role or in terms of how do we break these barriers? It's encouraging them and building a confidence in them. And I like what Mr. Trim said, that it's becoming aware that there's no limitation. It's not stereotypical. If you have a passion, just do it. Because one of my best product formulators happens to be a male. And you should see him in the laboratory mixing things together and coming up with innovative ideas. And I'm thinking, wow, we could take this to the next step. And some of the people, typically you won't get a female in the processing lab because it's very heavy lifting and it's laborious. So typically most of the boys will gravitate because of the heavy lifting. But if we built in equipment, then there's no limitation. So in terms of the gender challenge, I think the biggest barrier has been rightly identified is awareness and also building confidence in our students. And the question you asked about what I do as a teacher is, even when I'm lecturing, I realize that at this point it becomes a male-female thing because you have boys and girls sitting in the class watching men and women. And the females are more intimidated to share the ideas, tell you what they think, and then both men are quicker to respond even though they are wrong. And when they are wrong, the females are more timid to try and put out the right answer. So it is trying to build that confidence, and it's something I try to do consciously. And it gives me a lot of pride and excitement and happiness when I get females walk to me and say, oh, you know what, Dr. J, you've actually given me hope that I can be a lecturer. And it's really nice. And recently I asked my students in class, which one of you wants to be a lecturer? No one put up their hands, just a few females. I was like, why? And there's no money in it. So it's also that, because the men see it as, well, I need a job that will pay for the bills. But it's all these quagmire of things that it makes this gender conversation very relevant, because when we talk about STEM, we're thinking about engineering, we're thinking about mathematics, the traditionally hardcore science. But in the field I work in as a sensory scientist, where we taste food, so when you say wine and dairy, that's really what I do, just taste it. You would come into our taste panels and you see more females there But now I'm hearing that, oh, now we've got lots of interest in students coming wanting to do taste panels, because I made a deliberate effort to recruit a male sensory scientist in the lab so that it's not seen as a female profession. So in a way, these are little things that we do, but I'll leave it here and let Prof continue.
Good afternoon to you all. What do I do? So I teach, and I teach women and men how to make decisions that allow them to use agricultural resources to produce, to consume, exchange. So when I teach, I also am conscious of the fact that these men and women who have come to agriculture, and to do agriculture in the university, you have to pass chemistry. And so in the agricultural sciences itself, you would have more men. But the forefathers created another course called Family and Consumer Sciences, so that the foods, clothing, and other family issues that may be in the households, whether agriculture or non-agriculture, will also be taken up by our school. And that is hugely dominated by women. So in my school, I would say that we have 50% male, 50% women because of the balance of the two courses. So when I do research, you want to understand what is system, but agriculture is not only food. We have the non-food areas, so rubber, cotton, and all that. And that takes you outside, and you've realized that indeed, when it comes to the non-agricultural tree crops, you see more males than females. So these people you are training, what should they do so that when they go out there, they will be well integrated? And that's where I do my thing, if you like. How did I become an agricultural economist? I had to think like a man. Because at the time, there were 60 of us FUE, 10 women, 50 men. So what do? You be in groups, and I still do that with the men. And you know, we are different because of our genes and chromosomes, is that not it? So there are things on the Y that are not in me. But a lot of the things in me, on my X, may be in men. So growing up, I watch men, how they do things differently. And that is what, for me, has happened. If you didn't do that, even when the requirements are clear, that to be a professor, this is what you have to do, you concentrate on being a mother and a wife. I had to tell my husband, I want to move to this level. What it means is that this weekend, I am traveling to South Africa to attend a conference. Do you get me? Because he gets up and says, I am attending a conference. Anyway, my husband is the Director General of the Ghana Prison Service. It means that he has gone for missions, left us home for like 5 years, is that it? But when I married, I didn't have PhD. You cannot. He didn't say it. The voices out there said, you are married. You can't travel out. So I had to do PhD in the University of Ghana. At the time, it was not one of the things that university departments pursued. But I was among the first people because I had told myself that I needed to get to yes. And that meant I had to do some of the things that men were free to do. You get me? So the barriers, a lot of it is noises or voices. And I agree that it is only women who can give birth. So there are certain things you shouldn't do when men are doing it too much. You get me? Because you have to stay at home also, hold that baby, and do your part. So balancing act, it has not been the easy thing. But telling yourself that you can do it and looking for the information. So I liked it when he said it's the awareness. Look, as a dean now, a lot of ladies came and said, I didn't get medicine, I didn't get health therapy, but I want to do agriculture. What is it? They are not explained to at SS level. So they don't know. And I didn't know. I also did not get medicine, and I decided to. I was given biochemistry or something, sciences. And then somebody advised me that, look, agriculture has more opportunities. Try it. So again, get information. Try it. Continue to do it. Explore further. Think. So that is my current research. Design thinking. That's what I'm integrating in my school. People should think means that you read something you don't understand, you go back. And that's what I'm teaching my girls and boys. I like the gender mainstreaming, not only women mainstreaming, gender mainstreaming. Boys and girls understand that you come with different chromosomes, so there are certain things that girls will do that you cannot do as a boy. And there are certain things that boys will do that you cannot do as a girl. But if your goal is clear, there are some things you ought to learn. You get me? So in the F course, there are few men, and they know what they want. So they move with the women. What do I do again, apart from teaching? 2 role model. So I have my own farm, and showing that you can manage a farm even as a professor. So I manage a 3-acre mango farm with coconut. And it's in the rural area, so I step out there. And since Koro came, it's been beautiful. All the people I work with are online. So Momo is moving, E-Levy is being passed. Not that it's today, they are discussing it. Yes. Not that I love it, it's just that I will continue with it because it makes my work so easy. The tax is high, but it makes my work so easy. I don't drive all the time to the field, but work gets done. Then what do I do again? I love the gender mainstreaming. So I do microfinance so that when I tell people what to do as an extensionist, when you do agriculture, you come out also as an extensionist. You tell people what to do and give it to them to implement. So I also do, I sell kokonte, I sell honey. This is doing and showing the example that it can be done. Finally, I have a green office. What do I do there on campus? Girls and boys are helping me as incubatees to showcase that you can do organic vegetables, you can do mushrooms, you can do snails, you can do fish, and you can do things called grass cutter, raisin, and rabbits. So that is what I do for the boys and girls to know that they can also do it. Then they break the barriers because they are seeing that a woman who is half century plus 5 plus is doing it. That's what I tell my boys and girls. I'm half century plus 5 plus. So if I'm doing it, you can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And somebody just came in, Jorge. Is that Mr. Jorge?
Yeah,
or is this your nickname? Jorge Apia? Or is it George?
Well, both is fine.
Okay, if you can tell us who you are.
George is okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been getting this a lot, so I think I'm used to it now.
Well, I'm looking at my sheet and it says Jorge.
Yeah. Well, I talk with Portuguese, not Spanish.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So my name is George. George Apia. Today I'm here as the CEO of Ghana Tech Lab, and also represent Kumasi Hive. Right. So the work is the same, so I can talk about either way, kind of link up that way. But let me start, because of the topic here, let me start with Ghana Tech Lab. So Ghana Tech Lab is an ecosystem hub, ecosystem innovation hub. So not your traditional kind of hub, but our focus more is on working with other hubs and then running a national program through them. So we have a coverage across the entire country. We are working with around 38 hubs, in which when we design the program, we work with them as implementers to disseminate the program. I think prior to us, we starting days, we didn't have a program that had that kind of national reach in that way. We have a lot of intentionality regarding the process, and that is fundamental to it. So for instance, all programs that we run, we intentionally make like 60% of women get through the program. 60%. And this is intentional. What we get the men say, why are we getting 40%? So, no, what we need to make the decision now. If we don't decide now, we can't undo what has been done over the years. Right? And one point also from that is being patient for results. So at the point where we are, we have seen that in the ecosystem a lot. Everybody's in a hurry to get a result, to report with, right? And nobody has that patience to sow something and get the results in 10 years. And I think that's what we are mastering at what we are doing now, is that we have the patience. So some of the investment doesn't make sense, to be honest with you, all right? It doesn't make sense. You are sowing, let's say, so we ran this program where we are doing close to country, we are doing around 500, I think this year we still have 1,000 women, all women in the class across the country. So if you go to a place like Dambai, we take about 20 women, we are training them how to do mobile app development. It doesn't make sense. Somebody will be like, why are you training women at Dambai how to build mobile app? What can they do with it? Right? But it's a long-term thing that you are sowing. It's not a short-term gain. So if you look at the short-term, now it doesn't make sense. But in the long term, it has its like unintended impact. That I can name a lot of it. So these are some of the things that sometimes as an ecosystem we don't have the patience for, because everybody wants results to go and report with. So everybody's just doing something, get something to run with, get something to run with. But we need to be patient and we need to have a lot of intentionality about the process to help us to undo this huge unfortunate situation that we find ourselves where women are excluded from what we partake in. I'm an engineer by background, so I know what I'm saying. Like in my class, there were about 10 women in the class of about 70. Right? So you kind of feel what it is on. Right? And this is something that we are doing. And apart from that, the third point is that not just giving them the access, but creating the conditions right for them to thrive. So for instance, at Ghana Tech Lab, we provide that when a woman gets to our program, if a lady gets into our program, we have given you, we're providing for your logistics for you to get there. So providing them there. But apart from that, those who have a child, if you have a child, you're a nursing mother, all right, we provide you extra money or stipend that when you are done with the program, you can go home and feed your children. You don't want to spend 4 hours, 5 hours in a training program to get skills, and then when you go, you don't have anything to give to your child. So we give them extra money for that. So if you're nursing or you have a child who's like 2 years, we provide that. If the hub can identify like a crèche or like a day school that you can take your child to, we pay for that so that they can partake in the program. So we are creating the conditions where the woman can be at the training program without worrying about what happens to the child. And sometimes we don't have that. We treat them the same. We treat the men and then the women the same with the right conditions. And that doesn't yield it because men, we have advantage. We can be at a program for hours and we're not worried about our child. Yeah, but a woman can't do that. If he's in the program that way, he's thinking about the child and he can focus. By the end, you expect the woman and the men to thrive in a way which is practically impossible. Right? So we will give the access, by the end they'll all drop out because they can't compete equally in the way that the men can. So creating the right conditions too is very important. Once again, this is an investment that doesn't have an immediate impact, so it doesn't make sense. But you need people to make that nonsensical investment in women, right? Investment that doesn't make immediate sense, but it can create that impact that we need because you get the right conditions, it can liberate women for them to do more in the sector that we want them to do more. Right? So this is some of the things that we do, and we are looking at seeking to promote that. Let me end with a last example. So I also happen to be part of the startup called Solar Taxi that does electric vehicles. But one thing that we have done, and I think it makes us quite unique, not just in Ghana or Africa, but in the world, is that we kind of, right as we start operation, we set up an engineering academy. That, well, we can't go out there and go and plug out, or we want women engineers and get them. You can put out the application for 4 months and you don't get people to apply, right? But then when you go a step lower, you set up an academy, invest in them. They come for close to about 2 to 3 months training. We are giving them stipend and everything for them to be part of the training program. What we have seen so far is that when we give them that, bring down a little bit and give them that passage, they are able to join our engineering team. Currently, we have close to about 90% of our engineering team being women, right? And that we are the only automobile company in the whole world that have more than 60% of the engineers being women. But it shows you that it can be done. So it's not about women cannot be engineers, but it is the approach. We use the same approach that we have applied to men for a very long time, and want to apply to women to then break the gap or change the narrative. That doesn't work, right? This, once again, it's not an investment that makes sense because we are a for-profit company and we're investing a lot just to get engineering team. The easiest ways to call men or put an open call and get a lot of men applying, and that would be a lot of men joining the team. Right? So some of this it takes intentionality. Somebody also has to pay for that investment, and I hope that's an ecosystem be able to draw that kind of funding. It's patient. It deals with that nonsensical investment that somebody has to do, right? So that at the end, it can push us to where we need to be as an ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that, like me, you have been encouraged by what you've heard, and in spite of the double bind situation that women necessarily find themselves in, we know that what is nonsensical, what in theological language we will call supra-rational, that it transcends the sense. And the Pentecostals like me say, it doesn't make sense, but it makes spirit. And it is that we need today, especially in Ghana, to pull men and women together to grow this nation. So will you join me, thank our panelists for a very comprehensive, I didn't have to ask other questions because this has been quite comprehensive. Would you help me thank them for this very thorough information session? And the rest of the work is up to us, really. Thank you.
We also want to thank Professor Kolache for ably managing the process for us. We thank her very much. We would want to, we are almost there now. Yes, time's up. And we have in our midst the rep from the ministry, the technical advisor to the Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Very kangaroo ministry. Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Plenty things in one. Mr. Oliver Wachi is here. He came to also give us his closing remarks, opening and closing remarks at the same time. So, Mr. Wachi, let's have.
Do I stand or sit? Or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Or is it Dr. Moderator? Mr. First of all, I want to sincerely apologize for coming in so late. You know, the work we do, you talked about the humongous name. It's not just the name, it's also the intricacies of what we do. The minister was called at the last minute to Parliament on this, I think it's the e-levy thing that they are doing. And there was a meeting that had already been scheduled. And because he couldn't make it, he asked me to, do it instead. So I sincerely apologize for coming late. I hope he didn't put the program out of work or anything. The second thing I want to say is that I want to thank you for the opportunity to say these few words. This whole thing about innovation and what FCDO is helping us to do. It involves so many actors, so many programs, and all of that. And the role that Get Center is playing is what I am going to try and talk about. I'm going to try to be very, very brief. But before I do that, I want to put some things in context. Ghana and countries like South Korea, Singapore, and others, at the time of our independence, we were slightly ahead of these countries when it comes to GDP and so on. Today, that's 60 years and a few above. You know where these countries are. They are miles and miles ahead of us. The question is why? What has put us at such a disadvantage over a 60-year period? And when we took office in 2017, that is what we tried to find out. And in the research that we did and the places that we visited and so on, we realized that the poverty gap is actually the technology gap. It's because we have not leveraged on science, technology, and innovation for our national development. And so we decided to do something about it. One key thing that came out was the fact that in spite of all the investments that government had done in terms of training Ghanaians, building infrastructure, and so on and so forth, we were not making the effort to transform research and innovation into actual products and services that will create jobs through commercialization. And so the intervention that we decided to undertake was to establish the Ghana Innovation and Research Commercialization Center. And so that's what the GET Center is all about. When we started, we actually, I think, for lack of knowledge and experience, we were trying to do everything, including what everybody who was here is talking about. Very luckily, we had the chance to be part of a program known as the Trilateral Cooperation Program that is being sponsored by the government of Germany through GIZ, the government of Israel through Mashab, and then Ghana. And in this, we are actually using Israel as a model to learn what a functioning innovation ecosystem truly is. And so they managed to bring together several stakeholders, including NEIP, Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, Office of the Vice President, the universities, ORIT, the University of Ghana, NUST, and so on. And so through this 2-year program, we have learned what a functioning innovation ecosystem truly is. And what we found out is that there are actually 3 main components. The first component is what we are referring to as the innovation ecosystem. We have all these actors who are very active. They are doing all kinds of things. They run into challenges because in addition to the innovation ecosystem of actors and their interactions, there is also what we call the innovation support programs, which have been mentioned several times here. So that's the second component. What are the systems that are in place to provide support for the actors and ensuring that they have the resources, they have the infrastructure, they have the mentoring, and then systems like intellectual property rights management and so on, that will enable them to do what they are doing effectively. So that's the second component. And the third component is actually what the GEC Center is trying to do, which is to be entities sitting at the center and providing the coordination activities, providing funding, making sure that the innovation support programs are in place and that there is coordination, there is mentoring and evaluation to make sure that we are all on the right track. And so that is what the GEC Center is all about. Now, what is the current state of the GEC Center? Currently, I think through the programs that we have shared with so many of the participants here, we have identified so many things that need to be done, okay? But, you know, we lack the resources and sometimes the capacity. And so we are dependent a lot on partnerships. The first partner that we are working with that I need to mention, again, is GIZ, you know, from the Ministry of, from the German government. And basically, they are helping us to establish our presence and let people know that the GEC Center is in place and working. So they are helping us to develop a website and to brand the GEC Center, to let people know that this is an organization that everybody can depend on to make sure that their work is made easier. So that's the first thing. The second partner that we are working with is the Korean government. I mentioned Korea at the beginning, and they've really served as a mentor for us. And so what the Korean government is doing is a 3-year program that we embarked on last year. So last year was phase 1, in which we studied the innovation ecosystem and to identify all the innovation support programs that are in place. It was very comprehensive, and almost everybody here that I can identify was part of that. And so a report was generated, over 100 pages of a report that now shows how the Ghana Innovation Support Programs are. And we align this with what is in Korea so that we can identify the gaps that need to be filled. In phase 2, which is starting next week on the 4th of April, we are actually going to use the whole year to design a master plan for the GEC Center, the role that it wants to play and how it is going to play it. And we are hoping that by the end of this year, in December of 2022, we will have a very well developed master plan that everybody has contributed for us to, to shape. And then next year, 2023, we are going to implement what is in the master plan. So that is what the Korean government is working with us to do, and it's known as the K, or the Korean Innovation Partnership Program. And I want to take the opportunity to announce that on the 4th, which is next week, we are doing the kickoff of phase 2. So everybody is invited. We are going to send you the formal invitation and the links for you to participate in that. Now, the third partner that we are working with, which is actually the one that has brought us here today, is the FCDO. That's the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Organization of the United Kingdom. And really, see, at the end of the day, we want to transition the GEC Center to be an independent organization, like an authority that everybody has trust in and can work with, instead of being affiliated with a particular ministry. Because one of the problems we face in this country is the protection of terms. Everybody is doing their own thing, and we are struggling because we don't have the resources. But with the proper coordination and trust in the entity that is providing the coordination, I think we can all live to work together. And so, at the end of the day, if we are going to transition to be this independent organization, we need to work with the private sector. And that's what the FCDO is helping us to do. And so the program that we are doing with them now is establishing what we call the Project Coordination Office, or the PCO. That is going to also develop the standard operating procedures for an institution that the GEC Center wants to be, and then to train staff, skeleton staff at the beginning, for us to now look at the ecosystem and how we can support it. And eventually, that will be the model that the GEC Center will turn out to be. And so, briefly, these are the things that the GEC Center is about, what we are trying to do. And we want to call on all of you to work with us, because at the end of the day, if our national development agenda is not based on science, technology, and innovation, trust me, we are not going to get too far. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to deliver these few words to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Boache, for those inspiring words. At least you've given us something from the ministry, encapsulating almost everything that we've said today. At least we will all have to move into that same direction, because that's the ministry where we find ourselves. Because of time, we are almost through. We wouldn't have Q&A, but we know when we go out for lunch, we would interact with ourselves and then continue with the discussion. We have two things to do. An evaluation form will be sent to all of us to fill it out, and we will also give the floor to the organizers of this program. Mr. Dazi.
Thank you very much, Percy, and thank you very much, all of us gathered here, for your support and for coming. It's very important to us because without you, we will not be able to achieve what we are, or will not be able to even kickstart what we are doing today. And what we are doing today is a journey. Everything that we discuss, all the challenges that we've unearthed, all the synergies that we've been able to uncover that we can pursue, we need to understand that it's a journey. And George was saying something about patience. Sometimes some things may sound very nonsensical, but over time, they will yield very good results if we have the patience and then the nurturing spirit, to keep on grinding and to keep on nurturing it. So, having said what I've said, one of the key results of finding solutions to innovation support and the work that we are doing with RISA Fund, or RISA, and FCDO through the UK aid is what Oliver mentioned right now. And Oliver and Mercy have been a very good supporter of initiatives within the science and innovation ecosystem through the GEC Center, and birthing some of these ideas and trying to actualize some of these ideas. So we have this thing called the PCO, which we've couched as the Ghana Research and Innovation Support Program Coordinating Office. And next slide. Yeah. And what is this? So we learned about some of the gaps in here, about how innovators are suffering to get their products to market, how innovators are suffering or are feeling the pinch when it comes to getting on with their IP or getting intellectual property right, getting tax breaks. How are we looking at things around procurement, right? Because there's the whole idea that when we have local innovation and there's a deliberate procurement policy from government, that can in itself be a very powerful tool to drive in innovation in Ghana, and that's a very good source of innovation support. So what is the PCO, or now what we call the Ghana Research and Innovation Support Program Coordinating Office? It's an independent enabling entity, and enabling is very important for us because our job is to make things happen. is always is coordination. Making sure that we are driving the right linkages, making sure that we are bringing and making visible the right programs so that people who are within the research and innovation space can access it. And also, deliver the central coordination function for research and innovation support programs in Ghana. The other thing that we are here to do is to create and strengthen linkages, and I mentioned that already, and innovation between research and innovation ecosystems actors to achieve strong integration and effective coordination. And also work closely with the GEC Center to play its central coordination function, advance its objectives, create awareness, and drive its relationship with stakeholders in the research and innovation. So why do we exist? To increase accessibility to existing public and private sector programs available to support and boost innovation in Ghana. So what's our mission? What's our vision? So through our work, the ordinary person, and what we are doing, we are trying to go down, the pyramid. The ordinary person in Ghana would experience the benefits and economic potential of research and innovation, and Ghana will be recognized as a research and innovation powerhouse. So everything that we are doing the coordination, doing the linkages, at the end of the day, the ordinary person on the street should see value and economic potential of research and innovation. That means that we want to demystify this whole concept of research and innovation. We want to make sure that what happens to the lab is able to reach the Makala woman, and the Makala woman has an experiential and viable benefit from it. The guy on the street who is hawking now can really experience the power of innovation and research. So that means that their lives are becoming better. And they might be hawking, but hawking in a different dimension because of innovation. We don't want to make it something abstract. We want to make it something very practical and very real. So what are our objectives? To develop systems and processes needed to support public research institutions and universities to produce and disseminate high-quality research that will spur national development, strengthen Ghana's innovation ecosystem and support programs, as well as drive the scaling of innovations and new technologies. And these roles are more about creating visibility, driving the needed linkages, and pursuing the needed coordination, and establish strong linkages between research and innovation systems to ensure strong integration and effective coordination. Next slide. Next slide. So the journey so far. So far, we've done different things throughout this process. One of the key things that we've done is that we've been able to put together some standard operating procedures for the GEC Center and also for the research and innovation community. So we know that a lot of research entities and innovation entities, including startups, suffer with the quality of outcomes. And one of the reasons why we suffer with quality of outcomes is because we don't have a standard way of doing things. So one of the things that we've been able to do is to set out some standard operating procedures that the GEC Center would work with at the same time, which is also available to researchers and innovators who are running research firms or who are running innovation firms, including startups, who can pick it up and say, hey, I want to do funding. What is the standard operating operating procedure for funding? What's the best way or the protocol for driving funding? Then, wait. Yeah, but how do you call it? My mic is muted. Then also, we have other standard operating procedures. So and also we've done a website, and the website is to enable people go out there and find information about research and innovation support, to know more about who the key actors are, to have access to the right information, in terms of navigating the innovation and research ecosystem, to know where the grant is, to know who is doing what initiative. And also one of the key things is that we want to be able to let people have direct access to GRISPCO through the portal, because with the portal, then we are easily accessible, anywhere. So while I'm trying to move, okay, and finally, what we've also done is that we built a platform, right? And it's still work in progress that is helping us develop a database of innovation support programs. So very soon, you're going to have all the critical initiatives available on the portal so that people can have access to it. And that's something that we have done. So we are trying to as part of our coordination role. One of the key things we need to do is that we need to organize. We need to organize the information in the ecosystem. We need to organize the people in the ecosystem. We need to organize any kind of data set that can be meaningful to innovators and researchers and the general public around the innovation and research ecosystem. And that's what the platform is supposed to do. That platform is also supposed to enable us run GRISPCO more efficiently, because we are majorly going to be an all-accessible entity. So that means that our web game or our digital game has to be up there. So the platform is supposed to help with how we interact and how we operate the entity or the office more efficiently. That is the final part of my talk, but I want to bring to the front here key people who have worked on some of these SOPs and to shed light on some of these SOPs. So first, I'd like to call on Linda Echampon to come and give us in a few minutes what these SOPs are about and how we can make use of them.
So basically, I think Larry has given us some insight on the SOPs. Those are the standard operating procedures for the center. So we have one on fundraising. So that is going to shed more insight on how one will be able to process and then raise funds for the center, be it a stakeholder or an institution. So something about crowdfunding, private and public sources, how we can get them. You can get the processes there. Gifts and donations have all been catered for. And then we also have SOP on grant management and administration of grants in relation to their life cycle. So from application process, pre-award and post-awards, they've all been catered for in those SOPs. Then we have SOPs on intellectual property management, works from across various colleges and universities, how we can well manage them. It's also in there. So people are not supposed to be afraid that their works will be stolen or when they share their information. We also have one on research commercialization. So that one takes care of research within the institutions, how we can transform them to be marketable. Licensing, joint venture, partnership, they've all been taken care of in those SOPs. We have one on HR and administration, hiring processes, and the meeting procedures, and then conflict of interest management, reporting systems have all been catered for in those SOPs. We have one on standardization and certification, which incorporates international standards, the Ghana Standard Authority, the Food and Drugs Board, international organizations for standardization, the ISOs, and then we are making sure that our research uphold those esteems and they are recognized worldwide. And then we have also SOPs on innovations, protocols, and disclosures. Protocol, disclosures, and then ethics. And then we also have, the last that we have is a policy on gender mainstreaming for GEC. So it also, as we already mentioned earlier, on how to bridge that equity gap and provide direction and guidance to the center and then its partners on how to gender mainstream. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that means that for those of you who have been struggling to put together your SOPs, and that's why we exist, to make life easy, right? To take the lead and at least give you the skeletal framework that you can pick and use in your organization. And these are the things that we need for us to be able to build those quality innovations and research that can permeate the borders of this country, because we are not thinking only us, we are thinking everywhere. We want to be able to take our research, our product, our IP, and it should be accepted in the EU area, it should be accepted in Asia, it should be accepted in America, it should be accepted across West Africa. And this is our job, or this is the kind of thing that we want to do. We want to be able to bring into the ecosystem that impetus, that support to make it happen. And I want to bring Ms. or Mrs. Abenao to come and shed light on the gender component of the SOP. So she's been, so the people that you see are those who've been working behind the scenes on some of these SOPs, and it's very important that we give them the chance to speak to them.
Through the work of the GRSPCO, the ordinary person in Ghana will experience the benefits and the potential of research and innovation. So what you're saying is that you want everybody to benefit. But then when we talk about everybody, we have two categories accepted in Ghana. We have men and women. And so if we're talking about ordinary person, we need to recognize that and not lump all of us together. And during the gender discussions, we're talking about the differences that we have. Men have difference, we see things from a different perspective because of socialization and because of our sex and the roles we play. And women also have different perspectives. I remember yesterday I was in a courtroom, and there were about 6 people in the courtroom discussing Ukraine war. 3 of them were women, fortunately, and 3 were men. And I was just sitting down listening to them. The men were in support of Ukraine. They were in support of Russia, of course. Why shouldn't we invade? If you come to me and you are bringing your enemies, my enemies, to Asa, we should do something. And the women were talking about the children and the hardship that was being created. So the same issue, the men were supporting Russia and the women were supporting Ukraine. So here you see that we have different perspectives based on our socialization. So if you just say ordinary person, you will not get you won't get the perspectives of both genders, and then the products or the innovation that you bring out will not benefit either one. And so the commercialization we'll be talking about won't happen. Our products might not be accepted. So we need to consider gender perspectives. And there should also be equality and equity. So that's why we've come up with a mainstreaming policy, so that whatever we do, it benefits the target group, and then everybody benefits equally from the commercialization of the innovation and research. So that's why we came up with the mainstreaming gender. So that is it. I can't go in, I'm not going to go into the details of the policy, but then at the end of the day, we want to achieve something that will benefit both men and women. Most of the time when we talk about ordinary people, it's the men that we're using as an example, and we might not benefit from it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Otu. Hey, Miss Otu. Miss Otu. And so, like I mentioned, that we have a website. So that's a website, GRISPCO.org. You can check it out. A lot of information there, and it's still work in progress. So very soon you'll be getting a lot of details there. And then very soon we're also going to give access to people on the platform that can let you have access to the database of research and innovation programs. And the last speaker on this, in my cohort of speakers, is Samuel Amano, the founder of Blue Space, and he is going to just give us that infrastructure dimension, and that will be the wrap-up. And I'll wrap up, and then that'll be the end of it.
Thank you, Derek. Good afternoon, everyone. Show my hands who have not had lunch or want to have lunch. All right. think this has been very productive. I've learned quite a bit. Like Gary said, my name is Sam Amano. I was the former CEO for Dell for West Africa. And one of the things I discovered in terms of infrastructure is that the big techs, when they come into the West African market, is purely technology export, right? They're coming to sell what they built, IPs they've developed over the years to us. And we go to all sorts of procurement processes to buy that. Nearly any startup, any entrepreneur here in Ghana needs some type of digital infrastructure to be able to be successful, right? So you have guys who are building code, you have guys who are building objects, you have guys who are making things. At the end of all of this product creation, there's some element of infrastructure that you need to procure. Unfortunately, in Africa, we're not making anything for ourselves in that domain. So we don't make network switches that come from Africa. We don't build operating systems that come from Africa. We don't make software, accounting software, for example. Hardly would you find a simple accounting software that's been developed from Africa to match our tax code, right? So we're importing quite a bit of IP and then tweaking that IP to fit the businesses that we're running here. So one of the things we started doing, we were supporting the financial services ecosystem. We were building software, using the third-party software for the banks, insurance companies, and the like, stock exchanges and the like. But we realized that workers within these institutions also need capacity. So you have the banking college, you have the startup ecosystem, you have the insurance college. They all need training. So as part of these SOPs, one of the things we wanted to do is tap into our innovation hub that we have called Blue Space Innovation Hub and provide these digital skills first. And hopefully through that, some of the innovators like yourselves will learn how to build things from our ecosystem, because we give you access to the sandboxes, give you access to the cloud infrastructure, and also the training capabilities you need to develop your teams, right? So we're hoping that this program would be very useful and essential for your future development needs. The other bit of support infrastructure we bring is capital infrastructure. So just like the big tech companies, we've also connected with international startup innovation hubs. We're working on one now called Startup Wise. We just closed a fund of about 8.5 million. And we've been trying to look for startups in Ghana who can benefit from this global best practice. I think Yamachi CEO was saying he's a Ghanaian building a company here in Ghana, but for the world, right? So the idea is if you want to build for the world, you want to know what the world thinks first. There are standards and procedures. Obviously, we have the Ghana Standards Board, but it's also important to know what the international community thinks about your products. So the international startup accelerators also helps our companies here to have a perspective of what the international community thinks about product design, business models, business canvases, and that sort of infrastructure would aid in your building of your own products to meet those international best practices. So that capability is available to you. This fund is available ASAP. So if you have a company that's already churning out some revenue and you need some support, we can work with you, onboard you into the program, and then carry through for funding. The last bit of infrastructure support that I want to discuss are the soft infrastructure stuff. It's all well and good knowing how to build software, knowing how to design platforms, knowing how to connect to funding sources. But the personality traits that we need to develop, i.e. the humility skills, the soft skills, the fake it to make it has gone too far sometimes. So I think there's somebody, Social Enterprise Ghana talked about how to help us build companies from a social perspective. And I think our social skills, how to build a company full of integrity based on your value system, right? How do you build platforms and attach some elements of values to the things we're building, so that when you speak to an impact investor, for example, they will know that you're really, really believing in the products that you're building that you really want to, impact change or bring about change. So the social component is all going to be part of the infrastructure skills, or what they call soft infrastructure, that we want our startup ecosystem to learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. And finally, from the Office of the President, because the policies in this country are driven from the top, and we always need the support from the top to make it happen. So closing remarks from the Office of the President, Professor Kweku Apia Edu, and he will tell you what he does, and you will know better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will keep it very brief. Greetings from the presidency, and I've enjoyed everything that has happened here today. Yes, we have been involved in this whole project. Oliver is my very good friend. He's my senior as well. We've worked very closely together. Deridine and I have worked very closely together on several initiatives with the Ministry of Communications and also with the Ministry for Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. We give this project all our support, and I think that is demonstrated by our fiscal involvement in all that transpired right from scratch to now. That support has not diminished, and I work very closely with the Vice President of the Republic, and I believe that all of us are aware of his passion for digitalization and innovation. So the support is there, and whatever we can do to help your cause, we will be there for you. And on that note, let me say thank you for the opportunity.
So thank you very much, Prof, for your kind words and for the show of support. And thank you very much, our sponsors from FCDO, UK8, and RISA. Thank you very much, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, ably represented by Super Oliver Watch. And then also we have other partners, the moderators who came to support us, who run different sessions, Professor Kolache, and then also Percy for holding the fort. All the panel members that came, all our partners, all our friends, all our cohort. I see Amadede here from Impact Investing. Thank you very much for coming. From KNUST, Professor Kowa, Mr. Komia from Stepri. So we have all the creme de la creme. You know, everybody here is creme de la creme, and we really appreciate you for coming. Thank you very much, and we hope we are going to work together. We hope that you will reach out to us, and then whenever you have any need, especially in the innovation space, whenever you want any connection to any agency, whenever you want any access to any entity or to any individual, or if you want support in writing out your grant proposals, if you want SOPs, we are here to support you and to let you connect to the right people. So we're looking forward to a great journey. They say if you want to walk far, you walk together. So we want to work together with you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so after the vote of thanks and getting all those powerful statements, we are good to go. When we started, we're not so sure, but after going through half day, I think we've earned ourselves some lunch, and packed lunch and some souvenirs. And we actually want to make, because those of us around here, very rich, entrepreneurs, researchers, business, and policy makers, even office of the president is here. So let's make the right connections, the linkages as we move out. Let's share our cards, complimentary cards. Myself, it was a program right here, 12 years ago. I shared some cards, and I have my company. I employed directly about 12 people, indirectly more than 200 plus, because when I started mentioning the communities around the 270-something districts in Ghana, people were surprised. I know everywhere in Ghana. I've been there, not just go and look at them and come. I've been there. And it's through some of these connections. It's through some of these connections. So let's make that, because we are privileged to be here. Those out there need us. Let's bring them up, and then let's use these networks to build a strong system for ourselves. I discussed this with a friend, and her book is coming up. The title is Monetizing Your Creativity and Innovations, an Introduction to Intellectual Property by Sarah Noko. I think she'll be launching it next week. She works so close with Mesty. She's a lawyer, and they work within this intellectual property space with Mr. Saki and the rest. So it's coming up. So let's make use of this resource. So thank you all for coming. We didn't start with a prayer. We'll definitely not end with one, but we'll pray in our heads and in our minds. And we know that God will take us to our various destinations, and all that we plan for ourselves will come to pass through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.